Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, happy hump day. Welcome to the Broadcast Bunker 2.0.
Crudy, always a pleasure. Love to be in Madison. Fancy Brian on the board. Thank you, sir. Thank you to our fair audience joining us once again.
Dominic, we've got lots of breaking news. Didn't think I'd be saying the words. Bill Cosby is out of prison at this hour. He has been released. We'll certainly get there at some point during the big show. And you can react anytime you want to all the headlines here at 844-967-2789. Free Bill Cosby? Question mark.
Reactions. Welcome.
I've heard the prosecutor, she quickly went to MSNBC. I listened to her. But anyways, Dom, I don't know if that is the biggest headline. We do a politics show. So what do you think the biggest headline of this big show might be, Dominic?
Crudy, have to go to the Wall Street Journal for this one. As reported, Corrine Ramey, the Manhattan DA's office is expected to charge the Trump Organization and its chief financial officer with tax-related crimes on Thursday, people familiar with the matter said, which would mark the first criminal charges against the former president's company since prosecutors began investigating it 3 years ago.
Thursday. Tomorrow, charges coming down against the Trump org, specifically Weisselberg, the CFO. I think they're squeezing the guy. What do you think?
I think so. According to the Wall Street Journal, will be a blow to Trump, who's fended off multiple criminal and civil probes during and after his presidency. But Crudy, initial charges won't implicate Mr. Trump himself. His lawyer said, falling short of an expectation built during a high-profile probe that included a battle over the former president's tax returns that went twice to the U.S. Supreme Court. Defendants are expected to appear in court Thursday afternoon, the people said. Now, Crudy, the Trump Organization and Weisselberg are expected to face charges related to allegedly evading taxes on fringe benefits, the people said. For months, the Manhattan DA's office and the New York State Attorney's General office have been investigating whether Weisselberg and other employees illegally avoided paying taxes on perks such as cars, apartments, and private school tuition that they received from the Trump Organization.
They're a write-off, Jerry.
You don't even know what a write-off is. A sole focus on fringe benefits would be unusual, former prosecutor said. It is rare to charge an individual or company for failure to pay taxes on employee benefits alone, although such charges are used as part of larger cases.
That's squeezing the little fish to flip on the bigger fish, right?
Presumably. Cars, apartments, private school tuition. I mean, what did the gangster?
They're perks.
I mean, he went to Capone, went to jail for tax evasion, right? I mean, that's
you got nothing.
Yeah, well, might have something.
It's not sexy, but it probably has teeth, Tom.
And Weisselberg is not a young man, and depending on the amount of taxes we're talking about that is evaded, I mean, hell, man, cars, apartments, I mean, these are valuable things. Hell, I'd rather have use of all these things than have to actually be paid to get paid and then fund those things. So you just take it off from the company, it becomes a write-off. I mean, you stick it in a separate account, and next thing you know, it's just meals and entertainment expense.
Sweet work if you can get it. And I think the grandchildren or the children, Weisselberg's children, are also potentially implicated in the perks, right, Tom?
Yes.
Because they're all working for the Trump org. He's got the whole family in it.
So tomorrow, James Santel, our
Are they
fine
Sicilians
guest,
also?
no, the Santel, former U.S. attorney, is going to join us tomorrow at 3:00. That and some perhaps U.S. Supreme Court cases coming down as well.
So big guest tomorrow, Dom. Big news today, or at least the specter of bigger news on the horizon. Can we trust the Wall Street Journal?
You know that.
I mean, that is
liberal rag.
that's one of Rupert Murdoch's. Anyways, they are predicting or reporting that there will be criminal indictments against the Trump org and CFO Weisselberg, putting a little pressure. Dom, that's not where I wanted to start this big show, though. You know, I think there are times, and yesterday was a great time, went to the western portion of the great state of Wisconsin. And you know, people hear us outside of this great state, Dom. So sometimes I feel bad lingering in our backyard. But in this case, I'm going to be indulgent because I got to tell you, we kind of made Chris Kapenga what he is today.
We don't put that on me, man.
Well, we lifted up and amplified the voice of Chris Kapenga, a Republican Senate leader here in the great state of Wisconsin, state senator, not a federal senator, not yet, but with the sort of penmanship he's got, Dom, and the pen pals.
Oh, man.
Kapenga wrote a letter to Donald Trump, and we've talked about this. We were interviewed once upon a time by a local journalist, Jessie Apoyan, and she interviewed the greatest radio hosts, plural, ever, and we kind of did a joint interview like we do. And anyways, talking about Chris Kapenga, and specifically, I had referenced this state senator from Wisconsin as a D-bag. And she asked me, do you have any regrets of what you say on the show ever? And I said, only in that I find it coarse. You know, do we have to use that sort of coarse language? Is there some better way?
Sometimes we have to
Amplify the D-baggedness or whatever the, you know.
Debaggedness? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, make up your own words here. But in the case of Chris Kapenga, absolutely.
So worthy.
And we decided when speaking with now journalist, once again, Jessie Apoyan, that that's the way we would characterize him. And how part of the tapestry of this show, Dom, damn near every day around here, we nominate first and then anoint a D-bag of the day.
It's a major award.
And it's all been inspired by Chris Kapenga, the state senator from the great state of Wisconsin, in our backyard. And I guess there's still time. I was going to drag this out and get started in the next segment, but I want to share with you, our fair audience, a letter that Chris Kapenga wrote to the cult leader, Cheeto Messiah himself, Donald Trump. Michelle, can't read her name
Cottle,
here.
Cottle, Ms. Cottle, a member of the editorial board at the New York Times.
Well, they have annotated this letter from Kapenga, the local D-bag, turned national D-bag.
National D-bag, man. Local boy makes big.
I think we've made this guy a worldwide D-bag, Dom, but I'm going to read the headline first. Dear leader, a near perfect letter from a Trump sycophant, annotated. Former President Donald Trump recently accused 3 Wisconsin Republican leaders of working hard to cover up election corruption as he continued pushing lies about the November presidential vote. Mr. Trump, I love that they reference him as Mr. Trump here, Dom, the very formal New York Times. Mr. Trump delights in turning his fire on members of his party who he feels are being insufficiently servile. You're often insufficiently servile.
I'm glad.
Many promptly prostrate themselves. A few shrug it off. Then their state Senate President, Chris Kapenga of Wisconsin, one of the Republicans singled out by Mr. Trump. He responded to the former president with a letter that approaches North Korean-style levels of dear leader ubiquitousness. You say
Obsequiousness.
Thank you. It is tempting to dismiss Mr. Kapenga's missive as a desperate plea for Mr. Trump to stop picking on him, which it is, but it also provides a valuable masterclass in the art of Trump sycophancy. The text of the letter below has been annotated for instructional purposes. And I'm going to have you read on behalf of the local D-bag, now turned worldwide D-bag, Chris Kapenga.
Mr. President, one of the most frustrating things to watch during your presidency was the continued attacks on you from fake news outlets with no accountability to truth.
Now I'm going to read from the author.
The annotation.
It is helpful early on to slip in a common Trumpian term like fake news or deep state or alternative facts. This makes clear that you are operating in the same alternative reality. And here it is again, as Mr. Trump.
Kapenga goes on to write, I can't imagine the frustration you and your family felt. Unfortunately, in our positions of public service, we have to accept the reality that often truth in the media is no longer based on facts, but simply what one feels like saying.
Now, here's the annotation, Dom. Media bashing is a requirement when soliciting Mr. Trump. If you're not willing to go there, don't even bother.
This leads me to your recent press release stating that I am responsible for holding up a forensic audit in Wisconsin elections. This could not be further from the truth.
Now it segues here from sucking up to gentle criticism is a smidge bumpy. And keep in mind that the truth is a valuable concept for Mr. Trump.
Chris Kapenga, a state senator from Wisconsin, writing a North Korea-style letter to Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, I'm doing it now. We'll get to more of this fine piece in
Just
the New
call
York
him
Times.
Thor or exalted leader.
Oh, it gets better, folks. Stick around. We are the Devil's Advocates. Phone lines are open for you today. It's hump day. It's a happy day. 844-967-2789.
Are you talking to me?
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
He's not getting it.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
You can leave right now.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
America, your children have an amazing superpower. That's right. They can help save lives by simply washing their hands. Just 20 seconds of thorough hand washing after they've coughed or sneezed or been outside can help fight against the dastardly spread of germs. Armed with only soap and water and hands, your superhero can protect you, your family, and everyone out there in America land. Amazing! Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join MoveOn's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
The former president, the fact that he needed to drop a press release to call the horse a junkie.
The horse came from a broken home. I heard he was sold for like $1,000. Was born on a dirt patch. Then the pressure, the constant, the training over and over. I mean, really not getting to have a normal childhood and grow up and hang out with their other little horsey friends. Then one of those days, walked down the wrong alley and first one's free. And after that, it was all downhill from there.
Dom, that's why they call it horse.
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open for your take today. As always, toll-free talk or text. You can hit us up at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, there are known knowns and unknown knowns. And we have reportedly heard from the family of Donald Rumsfeld, and I attribute this source to Luke, the newsman here. Luke tells us Donald Rumsfeld, according to the family, has passed at the age of 88.
I'm glad you did.
How dare you, Brian? That sentiment entirely yours.
The Donald at Rumsfeld office, a statement from the family of Donald Rumsfeld. It is with deep sadness that we share the news of the passing of Donald Rumsfeld, an American statesman and devoted husband, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. At 88, he was surrounded by family in his beloved Taos, New Mexico. History may remember him for his extraordinary accomplishments over 6 decades of public service, but for those who knew him best and those lives were forever changed as a result, we still remember his unwavering love for his wife, Joyce, his family and friends, and the integrity he brought to a life dedicated to country.
He passed far too soon.
And one of the replies on the Twitter feed.
Too soon to laugh.
This might have been a good time to turn off the comments, because there are some people that are critical and perhaps relishing in the passing of Mr. Rumsfeld.
It may be 6 days, 6 weeks, but I doubt 6 months.
I doubt it.
Aren't we still trying to get out of Afghanistan? It's been 20 years.
Oh, we're still using that same war authorization today, right?
Well,
that's the update.
When did fake news start exactly? Did it start under W and Rumsfeld? Is that when it became acceptable to lie to the American people through the media? I'm sure it really came far earlier, but
that's always been acceptable.
Should we get back to dear leader?
I think we must. Once again, State Senate President Chris Kapenga of Wisconsin got called out by Mr. Trump for what? Saying they were working hard to cover up election corruption here in the state of Wisconsin. Well, Mr. Kapenga had to push back, but had to be so gentle about it because, of course, he's dealing with a psychotic narcissist.
Are you saying Trump's a little edgy?
So I will pick up where we left off, and this annotated version is brought to you by the New York Times. Here's what Kapenga goes on to write. Let me first say that very few people have the honor of being named publicly by a United States president.
So if he casts shade upon me, I'm amongst the chosen people.
Congratulations.
The annotated version. Now you're back on track. Having raised your concern, it is best to immediately backpedal and layer on more flattery. Plowing ahead with the details of your complaint without proper fertilization risk getting Mr. Trump's dander up.
Kapenga goes on to write, I never imagined mine would be mentioned, much less in this light, from a president that I have publicly supported and still support.
The genius of this sentence is that it sounds as though you're expressing gratitude, even as you are expressing dismay.
Kapenga writes,
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
I feel the need to respond, even though you will likely never hear of it, as the power of your pen to mine is like Thor's hammer to a bobby pin.
Hey, it's Thor again. You know, the god of thunder?
What?
He quoted Thor in a letter to Trump.
You know Thor? Yeah. Tall guy, not that good looking, needed saving.
As the annotated version points out, bonus points for going with a deity from Norse mythology. Mr. Trump clearly has a soft spot for the region to the point that he expressed a desire for more Norwegian immigrants, and even I'd buy Greenland from Denmark.
Great Odin's raven.
Kapenga continues on. Nevertheless, I need to correct your false claim against me.
Oof. Another misstep. False is such a harsh, judgmental word. Would have been safer to go with inaccurate, or better still, imprecise.
I never received a call from you or any of your sources asking about the election audit. If you had, I would have told you that long before your press release, I called the auditor in charge of the election audit that is taking place in Wisconsin and requested a forensic component to the audit.
The annotated version, suggesting that Mr. Trump has behaved in any way other than perfectly, is always dicey. What saves you here is immediately following up with reassurances that you, in fact, behaved exactly as he wanted.
Chris Kapenga goes on to write, prior to owning several businesses, I was an auditor, so I understand the importance of this being done to determine what took place in the last election. This will help guide us as legislators to put fixes in place for any issues found, and more importantly, to ensure the integrity of the elections moving forward.
Def fast pivot to expressing solidarity with Mr. Trump's contention that there were serious voting issues requiring legislative fixes.
Kapenga writes, I made specific requests on procedures and locations, both of which I have not nor will not disclose. If I am not satisfied with the procedures performed, I will request additional work be done. If anyone illegally attempts to hinder information from being obtained, I will use my subpoena powers to get it.
Always good to throw in a bit of tough guy posturing about how none of the libs or deep state plotters can stand in the way of your mission.
This leads me back to your press release. It is false, and I don't appreciate it being done before calling me and finding out the truth. This is what both of us have fought against.
The annotated version, it is unclear what anyone is fighting against here, but clarity should never be an impediment to flattery.
Never.
There's more.
But wait, there's more.
We'll come back with the Genzu knives and you on the phones, perhaps. Dial it up while they're hot. 844-967-2789, right?
844-96-PARTY.
Hey, it's Thor again. You know, the god of thunder?
I am the chosen one.
I'm gonna fly over to your house, come down to that basement you're hiding in, rip off your arms, and shove them up your butt.
You're gonna be dead.
That's right, just go cry to your father.
Like, wow, Scoob, it's Devil Radio. Rebel Radio?
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join MoveOn's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
You're an experienced roofer starting your day at dawn. It's hard work. Are you being paid what you're worth? Do you have a safe job site, healthcare, a pension? The roofers and waterproofers, Local 11 contractors pay a living wage so you can support your family and someday retire with dignity. Local 11 is looking for roofers in the Madison and Janesville area. Change your life. Join Local 11. Call Travis at 608-921-7207 or apply at Roofers Local 11.
I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court is overturning Bill Cosby's sex assault conviction. He's been released from prison. The 83-year-old was found guilty of drugging and violating Temple University sports administrator Andrea Constan at his suburban Philadelphia home in 2004. The ruling is the prosecutor who brought the case was bound by his predecessor's agreement not to charge Cosby, who had served 2 years of his sentence. 4 more bodies have been found at the site of the condo collapse in Surfside, Florida. 16 people have died. Miami-Dade County Fire Chief Alan Kaminsky says the search and rescue effort there continues.
Very, very difficult situation. But working collaboratively in a group, trying to attain that goal. And that's to save someone's life.
147 people are missing. A source tells the AP the Trump Organization and the company's longtime finance chief are expected to be charged tomorrow with tax-related crimes. I'm Ed Donahue.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Last night, the Wisconsin State Assembly passed the $87.5 billion Republican-backed budget for the next 2 years. The budget passed by the Assembly stripped many of the provisions Governor Tony Evers had proposed, including investing $1.6 billion in Wisconsin schools, legalizing marijuana, and expanding Badger Care. The budget did include more than $3 billion in tax cuts, largely for businesses and the wealthy, along with lifting the UW system's tuition freeze. The biennial budget will now head to the state Senate for a vote today. Patches of fog early this morning with variable winds rolling in and partly cloudy skies throughout the afternoon. High today of 84 degrees. Partly cloudy skies expected to continue into the evening with an overnight low of 64 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. I was thinking ahead, man. I was already using my brain for other functions, trying to be efficient. We've now got confirmation. Donald Rumsfeld has indeed passed at apparently the age of 88.
Next.
I'm not going to say it. We're going to come back.
I'm glad you did.
I did not say that, but that is the general sentiment. Dear leader, a near perfect letter from a Trump sycophant, annotated, Tom, and we're not quite done. And the author of this fine letter, D-bag of the day, the originator right here from the great state of Wisconsin, local boy made bad.
The OG, the man who inspired it all for us with his D-baggery, started, the D-bag of the day in his honor. He was our first D-bag years ago. We proclaimed him as such.
So
it's a major award.
The OD?
The OD?
The ODB. Something like that.
Old dirty bastard. Something like that.
Original D-bag.
Oh, okay.
So, Dom, were you going to take it up from the writing
yes, let us continue.
Of the esteemed Senate President and
from the great state of Wisconsin.
D-bag namesake Chris Kapenga.
And when I heard this making the rounds, or at least saw it on some of the social media, it's just, it was so nice yesterday. The president was in town talking infrastructure in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Of course, we went out there. Thank you once again for everybody. Rudy over at Shooters, all the people that showed up. Awesome. Love that town. But it was nice, man. We're Wisconsin in the national news for something that wasn't, bad governance or sports or serial killers. And then today happens. And then I just do a internet search for Chris Kapenga today, click on the news, and everyone, CNBC, Washington Post. I mean, everyone is just lighting this dude up for this kiss ass weird love/hate letter that Kapenga sent to Donald Trump. And let me continue on here where we left off.
Well, Dominic, we did leave the audience hanging yesterday in regards to Joe Biden in La Crosse. He was around the corner from us. I went over, saw him get out of the armor-plated limo, meet with, I almost said Scott Walker, Tony Evers, the current governor of the state of Wisconsin, and Ron Kind, congressman. And then they went in the Pearl, the ice cream shop on Pearl Street in La Crosse. And last night we tried to get into the place post-show. And it was jammed, man. There was lines. It was like a Hollywood grand opening in that place.
Right.
So the joint opened up at 10 o'clock this morning, and we found ourselves in La Crosse, about 10 o'clock this morning. So we went into the ice cream joint. We asked the first kid, the young guy working, what did Joe order? And he said, I wasn't here last night. I said, yeah, but what do you order? Everyone knows, right? And apparently Joe ordered strawberry on top, 2 scoops on top of the cookies and cream.
Ooh, yummy.
A vanilla with Oreos, just chock full of Oreos, apparently, just loaded up with the Oreos in a sugar cone. So, sort of a strange combo.
And
But
so don't ever say that we're not journalists.
we have gotten to the bottom of that for all the inquiring minds. They've been wondering since yesterday when we could not accurately tell you what kind of ice cream Joe ate in La Crosse.
I saw by the picture that I saw some strawberry possibly cherry, because you had mentioned cherry
They
going
did
down.
not have a
So-
cherry pie flavor that I saw on the menu.
But
so-
I thought it was mint chocolate chip underneath it and cookies and cream. All right, that makes a little bit more sense. And he was talking about getting the sugar cone. He was very excited about that. But I wonder, does he get in the limo and then just like, all right, that's it, toss it out, or does he actually finish it? Man,
I don't think those windows rolled down. They didn't chuck it
no,
out the
not
window.
just around the
I know
window.
that
They
for sure.
have to have a garbage in there.
Yeah, I mean, it must be like a hot box in there if you can't roll those windows down.
Do you
Or just
think
gives it like half done to the Secret Service guy. Here you go.
like your mom did when you were a kid, give me the lollipop, and you just put it in her palm, and she just takes it because she's your mom. That's somebody's job for Joe Biden.
I could be his ice cream finisher. I could be his food finisher. I finish all the president's scraps.
Well, let's see if we can get this fine letter by Chris Kapenga. Let's see if we can get it to a point of completion. Don, the
All right,
original D-bag of the day, wrote a very love letter-ish sort of missive to Donald Trump.
Kapenga continues on. Being cut from similar cloth in our backgrounds, and knowing that reparation must always be of more value than the wrong done, I have two requests.
So Black Lives Matter? I never knew that the lily white Chris Kapenga of the state of Wisconsin was seeking reparations. Oh, for himself. I get it. Here's the annotated version. Curiously, Wikipedia identifies Mr. Kapenga as an accountant and a business owner who has been in state politics for more than a decade. This would appear to make him as similar to the high-flying reality TV star and New York real estate scion as the corduroy culottes are to cheetah skin hot pants. Dom, I've seen you wear both outfits in the last 48 hours.
Yeah. Kapenga goes on. First, I ask that you issue a press release in similar fashion that corrects the information and also encourages people to support what I have requested in the audit.
Smart to sweeten your real ask by pairing it with something that Trump wants.
Second, you owe me a round of golf at the club of your choice.
Valiant attempt to lighten the mood while also playing to Mr. Trump's vanity regarding the family business, plus offering him the chance to beat you at Golf is Smart, even if it requires you throw the round.
Kapenga writes, I write this as I am about to board a plane due to a family medical emergency.
Bold move to appeal to Mr. Trump's humanity. Oh, that's bold indeed.
In addition to my Trump socks, I will pull up my Trump/Pence mask when I board the plane as required by federal law.
This is a bit of toadyism. May feel like it's going too far, but for Mr. Trump, too far is never enough. And it never hurts to take a shot at the feds.
I figure if the liberals are going to force me to wear a mask, I am going to make it as painful for them as possible.
Always remember that the throbbing heart of Trumpism is owning the libs.
I will continue to do this regardless of whether or not I ever hear from you.
Nice dismount. Emphasizes that you have internalized Trumpian values and will live by them even if the former president does not need your or heed your imploration.
Thank you for doing great things as our president.
Always close with a straight up bootlicking. Don't try to be fancy or subtle.
Respectfully, Chris Kapenga, Wisconsin Senate President, and D-bag.
Michelle,
I've often thought of becoming a golf club.
Michelle Cottle is a member of the editorial board at the New York Times, Dom, where they're always very formal and they always address him as Mr. Trump.
I feel I need to respond to you, even though you will likely never hear of it, as the power of your pen to mine is like Thor's hammer to a bobby pin.
You hear about the cable?
I mean, what? What kind of ass-kissing weirdo cult letter? What is going on here, man? And how do you go from talking about, jumping on a plane to go, travel far for a medical emergency and then follow that up like immediately talking about your Trump socks and your Trump Pence mask? What?
It just shows the Kapenga is the truest form of patriot. The MAGA form. The bootlicking form.
Bootlicking.
So this young man, this young upstart from the great state of Wisconsin, he just used to be a local D-bag, Don, but with some effort and ambition, he's gone worldwide.
I'm not going to be ignored.
He's in the New York Times. Chris Kapenga, you have grown.
Yes.
You are now an enormous D-bag.
Wow, man. And right before our very eyes, Crudy, it's amazing to watch our kids grow up.
I'd like to think we did our part to help him grow in his D-baggery, but probably all, internally motivated. And why does it matter? We're having a little fun with it, but got a piece. Greg Sargent, the plumb line over at the Washington Post. Trump's rage at Wisconsin Republicans should light a fire under Democrats. Hell yeah. There is a naive reading of Donald Trump's continuing obsession with the 2020 election that runs something like this. If Republicans pass more so-called election integrity measures, they will more easily resist calls to subvert the results in 2024 on the grounds that they were fraudulent. In this telling, Republicans will rebuff such pressure by noting that they personally secured our elections, ensuring fraud did not occur. Republicans themselves offer a similar story, insisting voter restrictions will restore, air quotes, confidence in elections, as if this will ensure the grassroots demands to overturn future results will de-intensify. The former president's latest machinations in Wisconsin, which are detailed in an extraordinary new report in the New York Times. We shared a similar report, an annotated version in the New York Times, should seriously weaken the seductive lure of such notions. Trump fully intends to keep pushing his movement towards the eventuality of a future stolen election, ensuring that there will be no pacifying demands for it until the deed is again attempted and perhaps accomplished. How far Trump will get remains to be seen. But for now, this requires Democrats to redouble efforts to structurally protect our elections. Trump is raging at Wisconsin Republicans, the Times reports, not for doing enough to reverse the 2020 loss in the state. This comes after they already went to extraordinary lengths to undercut those results. Here's an inset from the New York Times report. They ordered a months-long government audit of votes in the state. They made a pilgrimage to Arizona to observe the GOP review of votes there. They hired former police officers to investigate Wisconsin's election and its results. And Dom, is a footnote, a momentary digression. They also hired a corrupted, very partisan former Wisconsin Supreme Court justice that knew he couldn't even win re-election, didn't even bother running for re-election. He's so corrupt. The people of Wisconsin, even the Republicans, would have thrown him out, and they got him overseeing the election integrity.
It's funny because he's fat.
It's not just because he's fat. It's because he's corrupt.
Crudy, none of this was enough. Trump is accusing Republicans, particularly the state assembly leader Robin Vos, and let's not forget Kapenga, for failing to expose the fictional election fraud that led to his loss. This has forced Vos to hire a hard rightist who says the election was stolen to continue hunting for that election fraud. Meanwhile, a top Republican in the state Senate, who is also in Trump's crosshairs, penned an open letter that gently tries to disabuse him of his rage, reassuring him that this hunt for phantom fraud continues. The letter seeks to calm Trump by disclosing that he wears Trump socks while declaring the power of your pen to mine is like Thor's hammer to a bobby pin. freaking terrible. Beyond the comical North Korea vibes lies something deadly serious. Notably, in addition to doing everything possible to keep raising doubts about Trump's loss, the ordering audits and investigations, Wisconsin Republicans have also passed numerous new voting restrictions. The Democratic governor will veto them, but Republicans have done everything they possibly can. Now note this. The legislative approach they're taking to fix these problems with our voting systems is good, said Matt Basil, the Wisconsin-based National Executive Director of American Majority, a conservative grassroots training organization. But it was good for the base 3 months ago, and there's shiny new things happening like the Arizona audit, and the grassroots moves on. Now, Sargent goes on to write, once the Arizona audit went national and was aggressively championed by Trump, that became the new thing. And mere voter suppression to restore confidence, quote unquote, in elections would no longer suffice. The core point here is that nothing will ever be enough. These efforts to audit and investigate the totals are also justified as ways to restore GOP voter confidence in the results, but this treats them as good faith efforts to empirically reconfirm the truth about the 2020 outcome. In fact, they're dry runs for creating fake pretexts to question future results, thus fake justifying maximal efforts to overturn them.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We'll tell you why it matters. Just come back. More Devils.
Oh, Thor, mighty god of thunder.
Who is this kid?
Everybody knows who's in charge.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, you. Of course.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
The tear gas changed the crowd's demeanor. There was an air of disbelief as people realized that the police whom they supported were firing on them. "What are you doing? We support you," someone yelled. All of a sudden, pro-police people felt the police were attacking them, and they didn't know why. The pro-police crowd went from disbelief and confusion to anger.
The police instigated the crowd, right? The police were the oppressors here? So, Ron, Black Lives Matter?
I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. Go to them in a little bit here at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, tons of breaking news. There's going to be indictments against the Trump org and the CFO Weisselberg. Apparently that's coming down tomorrow, according to the Wall Street Journal. Since we've been on the air, there's been the announcement that Donald Rumsfeld has passed at the age of 88. We'll certainly get your reaction to some of these headlines. We'll go open lines probably in the next hour for a good long period at 844-967-2789. Bill Cosby out of prison at this hour. That's a little unexpected. But where we thought it was most important to put our attention down was, you know, in our own backyard. We've nominated Chris Kapenga. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Yes.
He's gone worldwide D-bag.
Yes. Congratulations, sir. You are our D-bag of the day.
from humble beginnings to, where it started, where it is now.
I mean, full circle, just bringing it back home.
It is a big deal. Dom, we were reading this article, Greg Sargent, this opinion piece at the Post. Why does this matter? This attack on Wisconsin Republicans brings us a little bit of glee and enjoying the bootlicking sort of letter. And you owe me a round of golf, sir. Yeah, sure he does. But back to Sargent. I'm going to read this point. A little redundancy, Dom, but necessary because this is important. The core point here is that nothing will ever be enough. These efforts to audit and investigate the totals are also justified as ways to restore GOP voter confidence in the results. But this treats them as good faith efforts to empirically reconfirm the truth about the 2020 outcome. In fact, they are dry runs for creating fake pretext to question future results, thus fake justifying maximal efforts to overturn them. It may be that some Republicans here and there are pursuing these audits and investigations to have one more genuine crack at persuading GOP voters that Trump's loss was sound. But Trump is determined to never allow that to happen. Each time Republicans go through the motions, Trump makes it absolutely clear that it is his real desire is for the movement to be maximally committed to overturning election results they detest, regardless of what the true results actually were. That is why he has endorsed a Republican primary challenger to the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, not just because Raffensperger attested to the integrity of Trump's loss, but also because his challenger has implicitly committed to using his power to overturn results in a way that Raffensperger would not. Tellingly, Raffensperger, I'm getting used to saying that name, is atoning for his sin by supporting new audits of the results. But like Wisconsin Republicans, he's also discovering it isn't enough. A willingness to work to overturn legitimate results is what fealty to Trump really requires. The big question, Dom, is how far Trump will get in getting his movement to adopt this ethos in future elections. But for now, Democrats must redouble their efforts to structurally defend our elections against various scenarios that could result if future pressure persuades a handful of state Republicans to attempt the worst. And we got the worst Republicans here, Dom. They would do it.
They would do it. I mean, they're look at what they're doing. Their bootlicking letter to the president is in defense of their efforts to do these things.
You're going to bring us to a conclusion? I can do so. It's just a little bit more. One possibility might be for Democrats to champion revisions to the Electoral Count Act, making it harder for GOP legislatures to send rogue electors in defiance of their state's popular vote, and harder for a GOP-controlled Congress to count rogue electors rather than the right ones. Given what Trump will continue demanding, you'd think Republicans will support such a thing, since it would render the scheme even harder to pull off, making it less likely that they'll face pressure to execute it. But that's not going to happen. After all, it would get Trump very, very angry. So writes Greg Sargent.
You don't want to get the cult leader angry.
Rather than Thor, I mean, Trump's more of like the Incredible Hulk, isn't he? Just raging, uncontrollable anger. I mean, the Hulk, the girth.
I mean,
Just go cry to your father, you little weasel.
I just can't see him as a Thor-like character.
Yeah, well, I'm
Maybe
sure
it's a lack of muscle
Trump certainly sees himself as a god. I mean, come on, look at some of the images they put out on Trump, like with the Rocky body from Rocky 3 on the side of the bus, those kinds of things.
I must break him.
The Rambo, right? The Rambo look with the headshot of Donald Trump. Well, look, it is scary, and this is what it is. Trump has an insatiable quench for this, right? He can never get enough.
Oh, he's thirsty.
So no matter what Kapenga writes, or no matter what Robin Voss in the state of Wisconsin does, short of them standing up and overturning, somehow, some way, giving Trump the White House, which they can't do, there's never going to be satisfaction. Trump will always come down against you, Kapenga, Voss, and all you Republicans, because until you give him what he wants, which you cannot do, he's going to blame you for that. That's how Trump works. So it's a continuing downward spiral. The question is how far do the Republicans go in their efforts to satisfy Trump?
How low will they go? Quite low, I suspect. Mark from the SAC, thank you for your patience. Welcome to the show, buddy. What do you got for us?
Hey, Mark.
Oh, God. Good news. I just had cataract surgery on Monday. It went great. So I'm seeing 20/20 out of the eye they operated on.
All right.
So and they said after what I've been through the past couple of years, it was nothing. That's what I told the nurses. But you served up so much today that I could really go R-rated. But
it's quite a plethora, wouldn't you say, El Guapo?
The whole is Kapenga going? I'd say he'd be going for Flawless if it was anybody except for Trump. A piccolo player would be along Trump's line. That is. It just is.
And that's after being insulted and threatened and lied about, right? That's how they react.
Is that some skin flute humor I'm hearing here, Mark?
It's channeling a little bit of Deadwood there. Like, Swearengin would be making all these statements, and while he was being serviced by one of his girls, and that. And you know how you usually ended up one of those that, whether, what the girl could do at the end of it.
I'm going to throw an allegedly in there, and we're just going to leave it at that. I don't know where you're going with that conversation, but that was Mark from the SAC. Send your hate letters, off to the SAC. Come back with us. No hate letters, but you can hate text us like George does, or you could just call George, 844-967-2789. A cornucopia of headlines. Hour 2 is next.
I know you think I'm down there wallowing in my own self-pity, waiting to be rescued and saved, but I'm fine, okay?
Because we're very high.
Yeah. Would you take your iron rod and smack?
At Chad's Design Build, our tagline is building a better world, one remodeled home at a time. Simply stated, we want to be a part of the solution to leave the world better than we found it. That's why we've invested in a 20 kilowatt solar array, which provides over 90% of our electrical demand at our shop, office, and design studio. And that's why we invest in local causes which provide opportunities and which confront structural inequality. At Chad's Design Build, we are proud to partner with you, building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
This is Rocker. I'm sitting on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies on East Wash, and I'm enjoying a floral-forward Manhattan called As Long as There's Whiskey. It features Rocker Rye whiskey with a hint of blueberry, a touch of smoky Amaro, and it's finished off with St. Germain. It's a Rocker Rye Manhattan at Sal's Tomato Pies on Livingston. Ask for it by name, As Long as There's Whiskey. You can also enjoy Rocker Spirits at the Wisco and Tiny's Tap on Willie Street. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. Bill Cosby is out of a Pennsylvania prison. He had served 2 years on a sex assault conviction. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court threw out the conviction, ruling the prosecutor who brought the case was bound by his predecessor's agreement not to charge Cosby. Attorney and legal analyst Priya Sopri says District Attorney Kevin Steele decided to charge Cosby, but Bruce Castro had made an agreement with Cosby.
Bill Cosby was not going to be criminally prosecuted with respect to these charges that had been brought by Ms. Constant.
The court called Bill Cosby's subsequent arrest an affront to fundamental fairness, particularly when it results in a criminal prosecution that was foregone for more than a decade. His family says former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld has died. He was 88. Charges are expected against the Trump Organization and an executive Here's the AP's Mike Gracia.
Charges are expected to be filed Thursday against former President Donald Trump's company and his longtime finance chief. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. has led a 2-year probe into the Trump Organization. The charges against the company and Chief Financial Officer Alan Weiselberg appear to involve non-monetary benefits the company gave to top executives, possibly including use of apartments, cars, and school tuition. Weiselberg came under scrutiny in part because of questions about his son's use of a Trump apartment at little or no cost. Barry Weiselberg managed a Trump-operated ice rink in Central Park. His ex-wife, Jen Weiselberg, has been cooperating with the investigation. I'm Mike Gracia.
4 more bodies have been found from the rubble of the collapsed condo building in South Florida. 16 people are dead. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava says they're actively determining how many people are missing.
We need to verify every report and to remove duplicates wherever possible.
Former President Donald Trump is visiting the southern border with Mexico. This is AP News.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
So, Darcy Haber, I hear you have solar panels on your office building. Are all real estate brokers tree huggers?
Crew, you should know that at Solidarity Realty, we provide outstanding real estate service while adhering to our core progressive values. Environmental sustainability is a big part of that.
So you really walk your talk, huh?
Yep, I even walk to work.
Come on, always?
Well, sometimes I bike. And if I have an appointment across town, I use my hybrid.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them online at solidarityrealty.com. There is an alternative.
Hey folks, Patrick here from Pegasus Games, here to remind you that we're open for all your at-home gaming needs, both online at pegasusgames.com or in-store from noon to 6, with extended hours on Saturday and Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon for high-risk customers. From our new line of puzzles to pass the time, to the perfect board game to reconnect with family and friends. Walk-ins welcome or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never outgrow.
Over the years, we have done our best to bring you the highest quality products our industry has to offer, and we are very excited to bring you a new location just east of the Capitol at 951 Williamson Street. Now with 3 locations, there's an Ignite Glass and Gifts near you, no matter which side of town you're on. Madison's favorite for glass gifts and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. Let's torch some glass at Ignite.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Yesterday, a panel of appeals judges declined to permit a stay in a lower court decision of terminating contracts among Republican lawmakers and private attorneys at the taxpayers' expense in anticipation of redistricting challenges later this year. The panel upheld the decision made by one of the appeals judges last week, but the Republican lawmakers had contended the whole panel needed to take up the matter, not just one judge. The appeals panel ruled unanimously to decline the stay. In his visit to Western Wisconsin yesterday, President Joe Biden stated the bipartisan infrastructure plan he is working on with Congress will address the issue of PFAS contamination in La Crosse, as well as other places across Wisconsin and the country. Another aspect of the infrastructure proposal President Biden touted in his visit was replacing lead pipes. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, it's the Hump Day Happy Hour. No, not yet. Just hour 2. We'll get there.
A little eager to get there.
I am eager, man. I always like a happy hour. You know how I roll, buddy. And lots of headlines, lots of opportunities for your phone calls today at 844-967-2789. So I got to ask you, my little buddy, which of these headlines has you most captivated? Bill Cosby out of jail. As of right now, he's been freed. And that was a unusual ruling, I felt, by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And basically, they let him out of jail. And they also said you can't try him again for the crimes. So Bill Cosby, apparently a free man, perhaps for the rest of his life. And this was seemingly a death sentence for the guy. And this all broke today. And then, speaking of death sentences, Rumsfeld's dead. He's dead. Donald Rumsfeld.
He's dead.
There are known knowns.
Yeah, what we know at this moment is Rumsfeld is dead.
Cosby, Rumsfeld. What else?
Well, what else do you need, man? Well, of course, there's the pending indictment of the Trump org and the CFO thereof, Weisselberg, probably trying to pressure the CFO to turn over on the big boss.
Oh, yeah.
But even if there's just simple criminal convictions about the against the Trump org, you got to think all his debts coming due and payable as soon as there's a conviction, if not sooner.
You mean with the Trump organization, the corporation
it would bankrupt
itself?
The Trump org. Yes,
because
to my
what
opinion.
they probably have some lending terms that say they can't be convicted of fraud.
I feel fairly confident that they're illiquid, just say. I mean, the guy's in real estate. He's not going to be able to sell his whole portfolio and pay off all of his debts immediately, especially as a convicted organization. It's going to tarnish the name, even if it doesn't get to the boss.
I mean, the Trump
big
name
boss
will be tarnished?
I know, it seems hard to believe, but the Trump name could be tarnished further. And here's the only good news I see for Donald Trump today. An interesting headline, but Donald Trump, technically, Dom, according to historians, not the worst president of all time.
I don't believe it. He's definitely the worst president of all time.
Well, Dominic, historians do give Trump brutal grades in a new survey and rank him worse than president who died after a month, but not the worst president ever. He's got some competition for that distinction, Dom. C-SPAN on Wednesday released the latest rankings of American presidents as determined by dozens of prominent historians, and it revealed some very unwelcome news for former President Donald Trump. They don't call him Mr. Trump here.
Mr. Trump.
Overall, historians rank Trump as the 4th worst president ever, coming in one spot below former President William Henry Harrison, who died after just 1 month in office. The only presidents on the list to rank worse than Trump were Franklin Pierce, Andrew Johnson, and James Buchanan. Johnson was the first American president to be impeached, and Trump was the first American president to be impeached twice. Buchanan, meanwhile, is best remembered for lurching America towards a civil war. Breaking down individual leadership characteristics, the historians rank Trump dead last in moral authority. That's a shocker.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And ranked even worse on this score than Richard Nixon, the only American president to resign in the face of impeachment. Trump also ranked poorly in the category of crisis management. Oh, that's a shocker, Dom. No doubt a reflection of his widely criticized response to the novel coronavirus pandemic that killed more than 600,000 Americans. Yeah, I'd say so. So Trump, not the worst president
I don't
ever.
believe it.
That's the best headline he's going to get today.
The worst president ever, and I'm going to tell you why. If they do this survey on an annual basis, maybe not next year, maybe the year after, once the trials and convictions
Gotta let it sink in.
and all the rocks are overturned and light has been shined on all the terrible deeds that this president has done, and it is clear and is abundantly clear he will continue his disgrace as one of the worst presidents ever. I say he is the worst president ever. Just give it time.
But you don't know history and you ain't woke. Not even according to Matt Flynn.
I grew up in New Hampshire, which is where Franklin Pierce is from.
Yeah.
You'd think that growing up in New Hampshire, the fourth grade through, junior and high school, we'd have heard, or they've been touting the only president that's from New Hampshire. The only thing we've learned about Franklin Pierce when we were in New Hampshire was that he's the only president from New Hampshire. That's it. He basically set up the Civil War. He
act like that's a bad thing.
Yeah, he basically set the scene for the whole thing, and they don't really mention him at all. But other than that, lack of knowing about him is why he's probably not as bad as Donald Trump is.
Well,
maybe. I don't know.
Donald Trump's trying to, lay the groundworks for the second Civil War.
He is certainly doing that.
844-967-2789. Join us on the phones. Be like Steve from Delafield, Wisconsin. Steve, welcome. What do you got?
Hey, Steve.
Yes, good afternoon, Brian, Dom, Crute. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I just want to disagree with something that you guys have been saying on your show for like maybe the past month or two. Where you guys said that Beaver Dam is the most redded. I think you said Beaver Dam is probably the reddest part of the state of Wisconsin.
Well, no. I don't think I said the reddest part of the state of Wisconsin. It's just the reddest part of the state we've done a bar show from so far, Steve.
Okay. Well,
small
I just want to let you
distinction.
know that, yes. So I wanted to say that Chris Kapenga is my state senator, and the wanker lives next door to me to the north, and Diane Hendricks, Cruella DeVille, lives next door to me to the south. When Trump and the GOP come to Wisconsin, they all go down the road from me to the Country Inn Hotel, which that's in
Trump stays at the
Milwaukee.
Country Inn?
The
broader
don't stay
party
there. That's what they have.
conventions
They're-
and such.
Their conventions, yes. And I was assaulted on 2 occasions by Republicans when I collected Scott Walker recall signatures in Brookfield, and that's like 10 minutes from my house.
So
If
if
you guys wanna
I
go to the
understand,
Reddit-
Steve, you are nominating Delafield, Wisconsin to be the reddest of the red.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by.
I want to nominate Brookfield.
Oh,
Brookfield, because that's where I was. Yeah, because that's where I was assaulted. If you guys want to go to the reddest part, you got to go to Brookfield, Wisconsin, but bring your own security, because all the cops in Brookfield have Donald Trump tattoos on their foreheads. So
No, hang on, Steve.
At least we'd see him coming if they had Donald Trump tattoos.
Steve,
on their
when you
foreheads.
say assaulted in Brookfield for collecting recall signatures for Scott Walker, what do you mean by that? Assaulted, punched,
Define
pushed?
assaulted,
Yes. How are you
please.
defining that? What happened?
yes, I was punched twice. First time I got a guy came up in his pickup truck. 2 of us were out there collecting signatures. Guy came driving up on his pickup truck, and he was sitting there in the dark in the driver's seat, and I didn't know if that guy was pointing a gun at me or what, So I flipped out my camera, and started recording him, and that guy just exploded out of his truck, and he came up and he got in my face, and then he got in my friend's face, and he came back to me, snatched that camera out of my hand. He walked over to one of these buildings that was close to us. He flipped that thing like this, and I thought, Well, there goes the camera, but he didn't let go of it, So he came walking up to me and wham, he slammed that thing back in my chest, So he called the cops. He got arrested. I had the proof on the camera.
Yeah, right.
The cops went and ripped him up. They ripped him out of his house, took him down to the station and fingerprinted mugshots, and it happened a second time. This time it was a woman.
Same guy. Oh, I was going to say, same guy, Steve? Because you may want to find some new neighbors.
Right, man. Making friends and influencing people, Steve.
Yeah, well, you guys got to come down to Brookfield once and where the action is,
Hang on, Steve.
More excitement on
What's your take on the Thor's hammer letter, love letter from Kapenga to Trump?
Oh, that guy, I think he's got a psychological disorder,
Well, narcissism, clearly.
Wait, which one, Kapenga or Trump?
both of them. I mean, that was one of the weirdest, freakiest things that I've ever read. I mean, to put that thing out in public like that, and then walk the streets like trying to act like a normal human being is it's beyond belief.
Thanks for the call, man. That's true. How do you write something like that and then just walk down the street like, yeah, that's right, I wrote the president a letter?
Well, the mere fact that Kapenga's names had been spoken by Trump's lips as he dictated a letter to somebody, made Chris very proud.
It's an honor. It's an honor to be spit upon by you, sir.
It's an honor to be mischaracterized by you, sir. I am a bootlicker. I am a bootlicker.
Yes, it's true. Thank you. May I have another?
And can I go golfing on one of your finer courses at your expense, please?
Wow. 844-967-2789, Crudy, when we get back. Some more breaking news. According to the Washington Post, the House votes to create select committee for investigating a January 6th attack on the Capitol. All the Dems voted for it. Nancy Pelosi got her ducks in a row, and apparently even a couple of Republicans.
So that will be some sort of select committee. In my understanding, Nancy might even put, like half a dozen Republicans on there. Now, does she get to pick the Republicans or at least have final say? Because, I would veto the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Jim Jordans, and certainly soon to be convicted Congressman Matt Gaetz. I would not want him on the panel.
We have some
Let's
details.
Eliminate Gozer, a couple of others.
We have some details on that. We'll get to that and more of your phone calls. It's a hump day version of the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open at 844-967-2789.
I'm going to fly over to your house, come down to that basement you're hiding in, rip off your arms and shove them up your butt. Hey, let me know if it bothers you again, okay?
I'm not down for voter suppression in my
No,
state.
right. This. It's got to be easy. It was great to have these options. We should have these options. We should have days off for people to go vote. We should expand the availability, the ease of our own citizens in this country to participate in self-governance. Republicans, why are you so opposed to that?
Because they lose those elections.
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Man, I love my kids so much. I once sat for 3 hours in the cold rain to watch her soccer team lose by 18 goals.
I love my kids so much, I once used a tube to suck snot out of her stuffed nose at 3 a.m.
You win.
Love your kids? Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat. From toddlers to tweens, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to find the right seat for their age and size. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joins us on the phone regarding our military influence. Aren't we selling arms right now to Saudi Arabia, and aren't they using munitions that they have purchased from us in their war?
And if we weren't doing that, because they've got plenty of money, they'll buy less precise munitions from other people, and the bloodshed would be worse.
Well, the blood might be on someone else's hands then, Ron.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open for your take today at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, a January 6th commission apparently has passed the House. This will not be the bipartisan proposal because Republicans, of course, rejected that model, but there will be a commission. And you know who is at least one singular Republican is out there advocating for this? Liz Cheney. Here's her statement today. The attack on January 6th was an unprecedented assault on Congress and the functioning of our democratic process. She began, noting that most of the officials understood the gravity and seriousness of what happened. Since then, she said that the courage of my party's leaders has faded. Talking to you, Kevin McCarthy, and you, Mitch McConnell, she noted that former President Donald Trump has provoked violence before, and his attacks on the Constitution are accelerating. She went on to call out 34 House Republicans who voted to establish the bipartisan independent commission on January 6th. But now that the GOP has decided to oppose it, the support of those 34 Republicans has vanished. They backslid on their own support for a bipartisan commission, Dom. Very courageous.
Crudy, to your point, the Washington Post reports Pelosi designed the select committee to have 13 members, only 5 of whom would be appointed after consultation with the minority leader, McCarthy. That means Pelosi will be able to select 8 of the panel members herself, including the chairman, and maintain the power to overrule McCarthy for picking anyone Democrats consider objectionable.
And I've heard it suggested that Liz Cheney
That
could
she
also
might
be
even-
selected by
As one
Nancy
of the
Pelosi.
as one of the 8.
As
Yes.
Pelosi selections.
Yeah.
And that would obviously make it a closer to bipartisan numerical number. That would be 7-6 on the commission. Pardon me, I've got a little bit more from Liz Cheney. Our nation and the families of the brave law enforcement officers who were injured defending us or died following the attack deserve answers, Cheney said. I believe this select committee is our only remaining option. I will vote to support it. This investigation can only succeed if it is a sober, professional, and nonpartisan. The threat to our democracy is far too grave for grandstanding or political maneuvering. The committee should issue and enforce subpoenas promptly, hire skilled counsel, and do its job thoroughly and expeditiously, she closed. So Liz Cheney, there's that. Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said that she may appoint her own Republicans, given that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is thinking of putting people like Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the QAnon queen, put her on the commission, right?
Make it an entire crap show.
Or Jim Jordan, he could go on the committee, just to show the soberness and the seriousness of these Republicans, hoping to get to the bottom of all of it, Tom.
The Washington Post concludes, Crudy, during the vote, the partner and mother of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who died in the wake of the January 6th attack, joined several of his fellow officers in the House gallery to watch the vote. Pelosi blew them kisses from the floor below as the vote got underway, while Cheney went up a floor to where they were sitting and gave Sicknick's mother a hug. It's unclear when the panel's work will begin, while the House-approved independent commission would have been given only until the end of 2021 to complete its probe to avoid its findings having outsized influence on next year's midterm elections. There is no stated deadline in the bill the House is voting on Wednesday. So, again, the best option for these Republicans would have to go along with a bipartisan commission. And they had the opportunity to do it. they would have had influence on it more so than they will now as a partisan effort. But as mentioned, you said, Kurt, if Liz Cheney is appointed by Pelosi, makes it much closer. Certainly, you want to have someone's got to be in control. The Dems, they are in the House, they have the control. The Republicans had an opportunity to, in good faith, sit down with their Democratic colleagues and evaluate and look and investigate what the hell went on. And it's unfortunate that they had to go down this road, but Nancy Pelosi really has no other option. I mean, this has to be done. And if the Republicans aren't down with getting to the bottom of it, okay, the Democrats will do the governmental work once again, cleaning up Republican messes.
Been doing that since 1776, have we not?
I mean, come on.
So anyways, there's
a
that commission.
Yes, that's great. I'm psyched. That's good. Let's get it on. Let's get it going. Let's get some subpoenas. Let's have some hearings. Let's get some mofos under oath on camera.
Well, Dom, we do have an on-camera appearance, and perhaps we'll come back and share it with our audience. Donald Trump today went down to the border.
Oh, finally.
And, a true sycophant, perhaps not as big a D-bag as the esteemed state senator from Wisconsin, Kapenga, but Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, appeared with Trump at the border today, at a press conference at a table. And Abbott was sort of captive after a certain point. And Trump, of course, he talked about the border crisis. And, it was an impenetrable wall.
Yes.
When he was president.
His administration. Impenetrable.
But somehow now it's a sieve. It has been punctured, violated, you might add. It's like a holy condom. What happened to the wall? Who vandalized the wall? But anyways, it went from there, because these are exceptionally cogent points. And then he went off a little crazy, a little conspiracy-ish, a little insurrectionist, a little seditious. He's still doing it real time. And the best part, even Fox News cut off the rambling former president mid-conspiracy theory comeback. We'll share a little of it with you, our fair audience. We are the Devil's Advocates. It's a Hump Day Wednesday. Your calls would be appreciated. Right now, dial us up. 844-967-2789. This show absolutely needs more calls and cowbell.
As we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know.
You fool me, we can't get fooled again.
In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
Chad's Design Build is proud to sponsor the Summer of Love on Devil Radio. We are committed to our community to demand better for each and every person. Doing the right thing isn't necessarily easy or inexpensive, but when we take the time to listen and learn, we can build a better community. Thoughtful remodeling is a lot like building an effective, progressive coalition. It takes patience, intelligence, and love. Experience helps too. Thank you, Joe Biden, and thank you, Devil Radio. On behalf of Chad's Design Build, here's to the Summer of Love.
It's the 4th of July special pricing at Crazy Lenny's e-bikes. Listen to this.
E-bikes are just $844. E-bikes with a 30-mile range, just $844. E-bikes with a 2-year warranty, just $844. 7-speed e-bikes, just $844.
You gotta see this e-bike. 3 power levels now, just $844.
For 3 days only until 3 p.m., 4th of July.
No one's got a bigger selection, and we have the lowest prices in the nation. Crazy Lenny's e-bikes.
Virus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished mixed. The Dow up 210 points.
The highly contagious Delta variant of the coronavirus is spreading in areas with lower numbers of vaccinated people. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky says it's up to local officials to set guidelines about wearing masks.
We have always said, please look, make suggestions, but those masking policies are not to protect the vaccinated. They're to protect the unvaccinated.
Walensky was on NBC's Today Show. CDC guidelines broadly indicate those who are vaccinated don't need to wear masks. The House passed a bill to create a select committee to investigate the Capitol riot. This is Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
We will be judged by future generations as to how we value our democracy. Let's be on the right side, not only of history, but the right side of the future.
Republicans objected that majority Democrats would be in charge. I'm Ed Donahue.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Tuesday, Governor Tony Evers issued a veto of a Republican proposal that would have eliminated the federal enhanced unemployment benefits that were implemented due to the COVID-19 pandemic months before they are set to expire. The additional $300 per week for individuals receiving unemployment benefits is set to expire on Labor Day. In issuing the veto, Governor Tony Evers referred to the proposal as the legislature interfering and encroaching on the executive branch's authority to administer the unemployment benefits program. The governor said he would not eliminate the expanded benefits because they are a lifeline for many Wisconsinites still being impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Patches of fog early this morning with variable winds rolling in and partly cloudy skies throughout the afternoon. High today of 84 degrees. Partly cloudy skies expected to continue into the evening with an overnight low of 64 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
%60 of the time, they're right every time. Dom and Cruz are the devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day edition. It rolls on, Dominic. Sort of halftime right about now. Lot of show in front of us. You can still be a part. 844-967-2789. Well, Trump had made an announcement. He was going to the border. And if you believe Fox News and most conservatives, they think that's the only reason why Kamala Harris went to the border is because Trump was going to the border and they'd, cast so much shade upon her. 90 plus days with no visit to the border. Well, Trump's going to the border and he gave a little speech, and we're going to share some of the speech. But I want to point out at thehill.com, Jim Acosta, CNN guy, has been a foil of Trump's. Asked him lots of questions at lots of press conferences. And Acosta apparently today, post little press conference, tried to shout a question out for Donald Trump. And the question was, will you apologize about January 6th? Acosta shouted to Trump after he concluded his speech near a section of the border wall. No! Several people in the crowd, made up of mostly Republican members of Congress and staffers, shouted back at Acosta. Some of the crowd began to boo the former White House reporter turned weekend anchor. They booed him. Boo, I say.
Boo this man.
After the crowd shouted him down, Trump looked in Acosta's direction, smirked, and gave him a thumbs up.
You are a rude, terrible person.
At a border event with Trump and Abbott, I asked Trump if he's going to apologize for January 6th. He did not respond. Acosta tweeted minutes later, crowd of mostly GOP members and staff booed. Yes, they did. Trump visited the border and bemoaned what he called a sick state at the U.S.-Mexico border during a trip to Texas with GOP lawmakers. And I would point out, Tom Tiffany from the great state of Wisconsin missed his House vote today on the January 6th.
Why?
Because he was at the border with Trump. Here is a quote. We have a sick country in many ways. It's sick in elections. It's sick in the border. And if you don't have good elections and if you don't have a strong border, you don't have a country, Trump said during a round table event before his speech in front of a section of the border wall. Now, members of the Republican Study Committee joined the former president, the U.S.-Mexico border, including Chairman Rep. Jim Banks, Indiana, as the party attempts to rev up its base and run on the hardline immigration policy ahead of the 2020 midterms. A little statement from Banks. President Trump spent 4 years fixing the border, but the Biden administration broke it again. And we are now experiencing the worst border crisis in our history, especially if you look at, last year's very low number
COVID influenced migration numbers, very low compared to historical averages.
They don't believe me when I say it. They didn't believe AOC when she said it's not a crisis. This is like a mathematical anomaly that just makes it seem like it's a really big number. And 180,000 border apprehensions or contacts, I think they measure. That is a bigger number, but they had up to 145,000 a month under Trump.
Right. So
was it a crisis then?
No, of course not. According to their own words, it was not a crisis. Their version, if you believe the words coming out of their mouth, when they quote unquote fixed the border, well, that was at 144,000 contacts in the month of April of 2019. That was the border being fixed. And 180,000 contacts this year. Now it's totally broken. But when it was 144,000, that's fixed.
Oh, yeah.
See, it makes total sense.
Impenetrable.
Yeah, let's hear that sound, man.
We've got the sound. Donald Trump, and we actually found this sound on Fox News, and we'll make a point about the Foxy News aspect in just a bit. But remember, they're at the border. They're talking about the border, right? And then Trump takes a hard right turn here at some point, goes a little off the beaten path with his, border stuff. You be the judge. We'll maybe commentate over the top. But here he is. Yes, Fancy.
Oh, I was just going to say this. We joined Trump mid-rant.
So this is after he's already been going off the hinges for a little while. All right.
Almost no instances of that. So we built a wall that was not penetrable, and we
144,000.
We're just about finished. And then we had an election where we did much better than we did the first time. And amazingly, we lost. Check out the New York election today, by the way. They just realized
lost, right?
It's a disaster. They're unable to count the votes. Did you see it? It just came out. They're missing 135,000 votes. They put 135,000 make-believe votes in. Our elections are a disaster.
Not quite how that story
But this
goes.
election, because of you and Dan and
that
Ken
fully
and everybody,
vindicates. You are the new mayor
I
of
wanna
New York
just thank
City,
the people
Donald
of
Trump.
Texas, because we won in a landslide. It wasn't even close. Well, I always said, they were saying, well, Texas is going to be close. I said, well, I'm in favor of oil. I'm in favor of God. And I'm in favor of guns. And they're not. And if you're in Texas and you don't like guns, God, and oil, I don't think you're going to do too well. And they didn't do too well. They didn't do well at all. They did poorly. But we did well. And we did well in other states, too. We did well in states that we lost. We did really well, much better than we did. We got 12 million more votes than we got the first time. One of the media called up and they said, could I ask you, what was the difference between 16 and 20? I said, well, the big difference is we did much better in 20. And they thought about it. They said, you're right, isn't it? But the vote counting was probably a little bit better for them in 20, because what we've done was appreciated by the people. And we better get our elections straightened out, because you're going to have a runaway country. You're going to have a banana republic. You're going to have a third world country here pretty soon, because our elections are a mess. But I just want to thank all of the sheriffs that are my friends. I want
Live to President Trump with Governor Greg Abbott there going to.
That's when Fox News thought it was too much.
The Banana Republic.
And they pitched it to Brian Kilmeade to promote his new big weekend show. During Trump's live speech, Foxy News broke away and found more important things to talk about.
OAN would never do that.
Well, Trump's, getting off message discipline. They wanted to talk about the border crisis, and Trump apparently revisiting this whole elections fiasco, and what about New York City?
You see the 135,000 votes, and hell, I won Texas big. Oil, guns, and God. I love God.
That's much different than when Barack Obama got chastised for saying what? Guns, gods, and gays. And you can see the difference. Oil,
yes, the oil. Very important.
Very
All right,
important
so
distinction.
What is the takeaway from Fox News cutting off Trump? I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened.
Well, Fox News is being sued for defamation currently, and they've pulled one host from the air. Let's not forget Lou Dobbs is off the air currently, and you've got another host in Tucker Carlson making assertions that his metadata is being gathered by the NSA, and Fox is
more than that.
Said absolutely nothing in support of Tucker Carlson. Nothing. They are not supporting this statement being made by what they've declared in the past, an opinion host that no reasonable person
right
would possibly see as a source of news information. But the fact that Fox News would turn off the former president, it's going to get back to him.
The Tucker Carlson crew, I want to throw this out there because this story keeps getting weirder. Deadline.com reported the NSA has given Tucker Carlson a lesson in spycraft and fake news, one which looks certain to crank up the volume in the now war of words, real and imagined. In a rare social media rebuke, the NSA shot down the Fox News channel's host recent self-described shocking claim that he and his primetime show were caught in an intelligence web. The statement from the NSA tweeted out, I retweeted this, check our Twitter feed out at Devil Radio. Here's what the NSA stated. On June 28th, Tucker Carlson alleged that the National Security Agency has been monitoring our electronic communications and is planning to leak them in an attempt to take this show off the air, quote unquote. This allegation is untrue. Tucker Carlson has never been an intelligence target of the agency, and the NSA has never had any plans to try to take his program off the air. The NSA is a foreign intelligence mission. We target foreign powers to generate insights on foreign activities that could harm the United States. With limited exceptions, like an emergency, the NSA may not target a U.S. citizen without a court order that explicitly authorizes the targeting. That's what the NSA tweeted out on Tucker Carlson. And apparently, according to
you can't believe the deep state, Dom.
The Deadline, just now, Carlson on air called the NSA's comments an infuriating, dishonest formal statement. He went on to call it an entire paragraph of lies written purely for the benefit of the intel community's lackeys at CNN and MSNBC. Carlson then bloviated, the NSA has read my private emails without my permission, period. That's what we said. Today's statement from the NSA does not deny that. The message was clear. We can do whatever we want, Carlson exclaimed, citing the NSA's alleged refusal to answer his staff's questioning if their boss's email was truly being combed over by intelligence agencies. Orwellian does not begin to describe the experience. It was like living in China, the former CNN and MSNBC frontman said in his standard outraged voice. Now that the Biden administration has classified tens of millions of patriotic Americans, the kind who serve in the military and fly flags in front of their homes as potential domestic terrorists, white supremacist saboteurs, we're going to see a whole lot more of this kind of thing, Carlson frothed, tossing red meat from the recipe for tyranny out to his red state audience.
Well, Dominic, I would think there is some plausible, probable cause to perceive Tucker Carlson as a threat to the nation. I mean, I've watched the show. The guy is a threat. The guy is.
I mean, terrible television doesn't mean necessarily a threat to the nation.
He is the top rated anchor in cable news.
Okay, congratulations. It's terrible. He's terrible. It's terrible television.
You are hardly the media critic here,
I have an opinion like everybody, Crudy. I have a mic just like he does. He's terrible. It's bad. It's not enjoyable. It's bad television. It's highly rated. Great. You know, some Oscar-winning movies I don't particularly care for either. That's not the point. Let me finish up the deadline here.
What's wrong with Sophie's Choice
that followed the said bombshell, it did not escape notice that no one else on the Rupert Murdoch-owned conservative outlet backed up Carlson's outlandish assertion, nor did any other FNC show cover what would be a huge story in almost any other context. This is a contrast to the headlines generated in the Washington Post, the New York Times, and CNN when their reporters were informed that Justice Department attorneys had secretly subpoenaed their phone and email records as part of a leak investigation. Then again, this is the same Tucker Carlson that a federal judge penned last year shouldn't be taken too seriously because the quote-unquote general tenor of the show should then inform a viewer that he is not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses and is engaged in exaggeration and non-literal commentary. The opinion by Judge Mary Kay Weishkull, a Trump appointee, actually quotes from arguments made by Fox's own lawyers in what was their successful attempt to have a slander lawsuit against Carlson from Karen McDougal, the former Playboy model, tossed out. So, right, the Fox News Corporation, they're not backing their boy.
Because he's terrible?
It's terrible.
That boy, terrible.
He's terrible.
You know,
I mean, look. You know, how is that? How is that? How is that quality television? How is that quality television?
How does you making a face at me make for quality radio?
Oh, come on, man. We're on all the social media. It's radio. It's YouTube. It's Twitter. It's Facebook. It's everywhere we want to be. It's on the app, Devil Radio. Make sure you get it. But I don't care, man. That is a terrible show. It is not entertaining. It is not informative. And it's not funny. It's bad. It's bad. Why do people enjoy it? I don't know. But it's bad.
Why do you also hate Academy Award-winning Sophie's Choice? Why do you hate Meryl Streep? Why do you hate America? I'm just asking questions here.
Is that what you're doing?
Tucker Carlson style. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open for you. 844-967-2789.
That's disgusting. Put it away, please.
You are a rude, terrible person. Good and terrible.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
The tear gas changed the crowd's demeanor. There was an air of disbelief as people realized that the police whom they supported were firing on them. "What are you doing? We support you," someone yelled. All of a sudden, pro-police people felt the police were attacking them, and they didn't know why. The pro-police crowd went from disbelief and confusion to anger.
The police instigated the crowd, right? The police were the oppressors here. So, Ron, Black Lives Matter?
I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
Listen to Devil's Advocates weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom. And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio. Cell phone lines open for your take, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I get that you're not a Tucker head, but what Academy Award winners do you not like?
I don't know, man. I'm just saying, there's quality films that are out there that what was the running one? Chariots of Fire. My parents took me to go see Chariots of Fire. Saw Chariots of Fire in the theater. And maybe it was just my age, but no, I did not. I was not a fan.
Cynicism,
perhaps.
Never trying to accomplish something bigger than
but
oneself.
Just because, listen, Trump had how many millions of Twitter followers, right? Does that mean he's a good president? The ratings in and of themselves and people listening or watching doesn't necessarily mean quality content, man.
In the case of the Devil's Advocates, it absolutely does.
Well, we always provide the quality content, but we don't have the millions of Twitter followers, not yet anyway. So just because Tucker Carlson is quote unquote highly rated on the cable news, doesn't mean he has a quality show. His organization, the Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, isn't coming to his defense on the NSA spying and reading of his emails. And in fact, their attorneys in court in defamation cases have said that he cannot be believed, and he is speaking illiterally. What are you talking about?
Ratings. They're the only thing that matters. You're only a good human being, Dom, as a media star, if people like you. If people don't like you, there's no need for you to be on the radio.
Well,
the mediums?
Well, don't you want people like you and to not like you because you want everybody to listen?
Well, I prefer to be respected, but in your case, you're feared.
I prefer to be feared.
Oh, feared? 844-967-2789. I got to tell you, the audience, they're a fear to you. Kurt from Madison, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hey, Kurt.
Hey, gentlemen, I'm kind of thinking Carl Dumbnuts is actually valuable. He's a great total idiot moron meter for the population that watches him. Yeah, I think it's a good feedback mechanism to know where we're at, the masses of idiots.
Kurt, do you watch the Tucker? Do you watch the Foxy News just to get a flavor for the crazy?
I watch it I don't think I've ever gotten beyond 10 minutes because the guy just drips with stupidity and
I don't think he's dumb. I think he's very premeditated in the language he uses and the dog whistles and the he's doing so with malice and forethought, is my opinion, Kurt. Everything he does is planned.
You're right, and I'm sure he's one of the Koch brothers puppets, for that matter. He when I said stupid, I think that he's fed the topics. I don't think he's has the ability to apply himself to actually do any digging for himself. He's got a team of people that give him.
But Kurt, what about the credibility gap here, man? If you're telling me, listen, if I came out here, Kurt, and said the NSA has gone through my emails and I would expect you to believe me, man. You know what I'm saying? Or I would think that you or some other people in the audience would want to know, well, how do you know this? Provide the evidence of that, and perhaps I should get a civil rights attorney and start suing people, right, Kurt? But I don't see how Carlson has any credibility on any of the issues, on anything he talks about, given how Fox News has represented him or the show in court.
I agree with you. That's why I said, if we look at the numbers of the followers that watch his nonsense talk, that's a meter for us to know how much trouble we're in. Obviously, the more people that buy into this crap, it's a meter for us. We find out, like, okay, if he goes up in millions of viewers, we should start becoming more and more concerned about this guy. So I don't know if you shut him down. I think It's just like any other parasite. There'll be another one to take his place.
Oh, right. No doubt.
Probably a lot
No
worse.
doubt. And we heard a couple of yahoos taking over the Rush Limbaugh slot today. You know, I mean, I get it. You know, people, you know, this is a news and entertainment industry.
Clay and
Kurt.
Buck. They're like us, but with less talent, Kurt.
Thanks for the call, Kurt. 844-967-2789. It's just, it's bad. It's not, I mean, I don't mind. And it's not even the topics. I mean, I'd like to hear some, you know, conversations about taxes and the proper role of government, those kinds of things. But Carlson's not the guy to do that, have that conversation.
In regards to the new righty-whitey talkers that are going to be filling in the former Rush Limbaugh slot across many stations across the nation, I'm just glad they're playing out live human beings in current headlines, because, you know, Rush talking about stuff that happened years ago, you know, it all comes around again eventually. But there was no competition to listen to in my hometown. We'd driven Rush to the grave and the rest of them, you know, out of the business. Apparently, Dom, we dominate this radio market.
844-96 Party. Dick from Madison. You can dominate next. Welcome, sir. What do you got?
Well, in memory of Don Rumsfeld, who's on first? Obviously, we don't know because we're asking who's on first. But there are no unknowns. Congressman Kapenga has to be the biggest suck-up D-bag in history.
State senator. He's a state senator, Dick.
Although some say he's considering a gubernatorial run next year.
Oh, that's wonderful.
By Thor's hammer, may it be so.
And then the Trump, you know, what's the difference between 16 and 20? Well, 4. Come on, man. Be a little quicker on your feet.
Well, when they're 16, then Trump says, I'll be dating them in 10 years. But he really meant 4.
But then tomorrow we're going to find out who the real MFIC is of the corporation, probably, right? I can't say it on the airway, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. And don't. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dick.
844-967-2789. The breaking news at the Wall Street Journal, a Rupert Murdoch brag of sorts, claims that the Trump org will be criminally indicted and that the former CFO, well, I guess he's still the current CFO, right up till tomorrow, perhaps. Then he'll be described as the coffee boy, right?
I don't even know that guy.
Because he faces criminal indictment. Perhaps, we'll see. Don't know if you can trust the reporting of the Wall Street Journal. Fake news and all. You can always trust the Devil's Advocates. Come back. The 4 o'clock happy hour. It's going to be happy up in here. If you're listening on AM 950, stick around. Matt McNeil will be next. The rest of you. We got Jeff.
Jeff Mandel from Law Forward.
Thank you. I didn't have the rundown in front of me. Who's supposed to be doing my prep work?
Hey, man, late booking. Always working on the Devil's Advocate.
What's Tucker's team doing?
Who?
Tucker's team. Rhymes with Tucker. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, a fine guest, and you on the phones perhaps as well. 844-967-2789.
They're a very mean person. They like a person like me that's not mean.
Beautiful places are always in danger of being overrun by the worst people. Ask anyone who grew up in Aspen.
We're building a wall in Colorado.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
I've already guaranteed this will be my last term. I'm doing this because I want to solve these problems.
Was it problem solving when you blocked COVID relief or when you downplayed the insurrection?
I want to do it because I'm so concerned about the direction of this country. I've got something to offer.
Like becoming a hydroxychloroquine salesman?
I'll go home with a smile on my face, realizing I'd left it all in the field.
You must be exhausted.
6 years from now, I'll for sure be going home.
We'll hold you to your word, Senator. Go home.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at P4PPC.org.
Get ready to get local. Saturdays at 11 a.m., Dane by Local and 92.7 FM Devil Radio bring you Let's Get Local, a new program featuring area businesses and nonprofits that make our community unique and special. So tune in Saturdays and go local, Madison.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
News. I'm Ed Donahue. Bill Cosby is out of a Pennsylvania prison.
Mr. Cosby, how you feeling?
Cosby did not speak outside his home. The state Supreme Court ruled Bill Cosby had an agreement with the previous prosecutor that he would not face criminal charges related to allegations from Andrea Constant. Cosby flashed the V for Victory sign to a helicopter overhead as he entered his suburban Philadelphia home after nearly 3 years of a 3 to 10-year sentence for drugging and violating Constant in 2004. Former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld has died.
Donald Rumsfeld, who served as Secretary of Defense in 2 administrations, died Tuesday, according to a statement from his family. He was 88. Rumsfeld enjoyed a long career in government, working under 4 U.S. presidents. He was Defense Secretary under President Gerald Ford and returned to lead the Pentagon in 2001 under President George W. Bush. In the aftermath of the September 11th terrorist attacks in 2001, Rumsfeld oversaw the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan in 2003 and the overthrow of Saddam Hussein in Iraq. As he retired in December 2006, Rumsfeld told the troops in a recorded message,
"It has been the highest honor of my life to serve with you, the men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces."
Mike Gracia, Washington.
The vote was along party lines in the House to approve creation of a select committee to investigate the Capitol riot. Minnesota Republican Michelle Fishback says there are already enough investigations of this.
Instead of ignoring legitimate investigations and launching one of partisan politics, we ought to let the processes that are already underway continue.
TV actress Allison Mack was sentenced to 3 years in prison on charges she manipulated women into becoming sex slaves for a spiritual leader of a cult-like group. Crews searching for survivors of the ruins of a collapsed Florida condo tower have built a ramp that should allow the use of heavier equipment. This is AP News.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Welcome to Family Feud on MagSync Radio. I'm your host, Rob Roberts. Rocker, we asked 100 Madisonians, what is the favorite part of MagSync Radio?
Oh, that's easy, Rob. Live music performed in the Devil's Lair every Saturday night.
The survey says, oh, number 2. So close, Rocker. Jimmy K, for the win. What is your favorite part of MagSync Radio?
Local music.
That's right, Jimmy. Listen to local music every Saturday from 6 p.m. to midnight on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Knucklehead CBD and Vapes are one-stop shop for everything you need. Knucklehead strives to be the safest place in Madison. Forgot a mask? No problem. We got one for you. Stuck at home or in a hurry? Call us at 608-284-0151 and schedule a pickup or delivery. Check out our ever-growing online store at knuckleheadcbd.com and get something shipped right to your door. We love sales at Knucklehead, so make sure to check out our social media for all of our daily deals. Shop is open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. Knucklehead CBD and Vapes, 550 State Street. I'm Lando Commando, and I'll see you there.
Tune into Sharp Elbows. It's on at 10 a.m. Saturdays with me, Representative Francesca Hong, and my friend Nada Elmakashvi. Every Saturday morning, we want to have a conversation with you about what's going on in the world. Whether it's on the biggest issues, current events, or people who inspire us, let's discuss it all. It's kind of like brunch, but with politics, guests, and callers. No shortage of fun, but also be prepared for some serious truth-telling. Talk to y'all soon.
Sharp Elbows airs Saturdays 10 a.m. only on Devil Radio 92.7.
Hey, I am Noemi.
And I am Cecily. We are the hosts of IPOS On Air, only on Devil Radio Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Join us as we discuss climate justice, how it intersects with all aspects of our lives, and how you can work towards a more sustainable and equitable world.
Because it's our responsibility to take care of our community.
It is our mission to take the climate conversation off air, so email us at inpursuitofsunshine@gmail.com.
Tune in Friday nights at 7 p.m. and join the conversation at 844-967-2789.
That's Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time. See you then.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Last night, the Wisconsin State Assembly passed the $87.5 billion Republican-backed budget for the next 2 years. The budget passed by the Assembly stripped many of the provisions Governor Tony Evers had proposed, including investing $1.6 billion in Wisconsin schools, legalizing marijuana, and expanding Badger Care. The budget did include more than $3 billion in tax cuts, largely for businesses and the wealthy, along with lifting the UW system's tuition freeze. The biennial budget will now head to the state Senate for a vote today. Patches of fog early this morning with variable winds rolling in and partly cloudy skies throughout the afternoon. High today of 84 degrees. Partly cloudy skies expected to continue into the evening with an overnight low of 64 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the Hump Day Happier, 4 o'clock happy hour, and it gets happier up in here. Right now, we got a good guest live via phone. He is Jeff Mandel from Law Forward, a friend of ours. We'd like to thank Jeff. Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates.
Hey, Jeff.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Jeff, before we talk about some of the important issues, let's talk about Chris Kapenga and sort of a partisan battle happening on the Republican side since convention weekend. First, Donald Trump, sort of sent some hate mail, cast some shade at Kapenga, Voss, and LeMahieu. And then Kapenga wrote a love letter back to Trump. We really support the big lie. I swear by Thor's hammer. But in reality, Jeff, and here's the important part. In reality, these Republican legislative leaders are actually endeavoring to uphold the big lie. And in fact, have hired 3 partisan investigators and perhaps the most partisan Supreme Court justice that I recall in Wisconsin's history. What do you think about Gableman and Voss's 3 investigators? And what will this confidential report look like if we, the public, ever see it, sir?
Well, it's a great question. I have no idea what this confidential report's going to look like. If it is based in reality, it is going to reflect everything else we know and what every investigation, every journalist, every audit, and every court has found, which is that we had essentially no fraud in Wisconsin's election, that Wisconsin has exceptionally run elections, that Wisconsin has high voter turnout, and that we have clean, honest elections. It's exactly what you say. This is a huge lie. And all we see is people sort of crawling over each other to show who can show the most fealty to that lie. But there's no substance to any of this at all.
Jeff, unlike Arizona, is it not the nonpartisan Legislative Audit Bureau that will be conducting any sort of air quotes audit that happens here in the state? I guess that would be separate and perhaps unequal with the Voss investigative team. But what's your thought on an LAB audit of the elections?
Well, there may be an LAB audit, and that would certainly be more independent than this sort of Keystone Cops investigation that it looks like the speaker is running. But even that is really unnecessary. You know, we should think about how our elections are run in Wisconsin. We have clerks who oversee our elections. We then count the results on a municipal level, and those results are then reviewed and double checked on a county level, and those results are then reviewed and triple checked as part of the state count and the final state level. In addition to that, the Wisconsin Elections Commission automatically, under state and federal law, carries out a thorough and detailed equipment audit after every election we have to make sure that our voting machines are performing exactly as designed, and that all of these crazy theories out there about voting machines flipping votes from one candidate to another or being controlled by satellites or whatever the theory du jour is, that none of that is accurate or true. So, could there be an LAB audit that is better than this partisan witch hunt? Maybe, but it's completely unnecessary, because what we know is that we had a clean and effective election in Wisconsin.
Jeff, let me ask you, want to talk about the ruling and the gerrymandering or the redistricting case that Republican legislative leaders have again been told that they cannot yet hire lawyers to defend maps that have not yet been created. But Jeff, before we get to the gerrymandering aspect, under what authority does the Speaker of the Assembly have the right to hire investigators with subpoena power and a former Wisconsin Supreme Court justice? Under what authority does he order this investigation? If you can tell me, sir.
Well, it's a little bit difficult to figure. I mean, that too is a great question. But I think if we're being as intellectually generous as possible, what I understand the speaker to be saying is that he is essentially announcing and helping to be the public face of an investigation that's being held within the committee, investigative and oversight structure within the committees, and that I understand him to be saying that all of this will be done in conformity with statute. So they're using these investigators and former Justice Gableman essentially as contract staff for the legislature and its committees. And I assume that any subpoenas that they might issue, they will follow the proper procedures and do so. If they deviate from that, obviously a lot of people are paying close attention.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Jeff Mandel, founder, president, and lead counsel of the organization Law Forward, joining us on the phones. Jeff, thanks again for joining us. I want to also get your take on these efforts by the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, the right-wing outfit, constantly out there working, doing their duty for the Republicans. Jeff, they're wanting to change how we perform our absentee voting here in the state of Wisconsin. I voted absentee. I think it's great. What's your take on their Will's most legal recent efforts?
Well, I think that this one is completely baseless. These are efforts to restrict people's participation in elections by asking courts to insist that the statutes say things that the statutes don't say. We saw this a year and a half ago. It was the same lawyers at the same Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty that pushed to have hundreds of thousands of voters purged from the rolls right before the spring 2020 election. And they did that on a theory that the statute said, their argument that the statute said something it simply didn't say. And they lost that case, even in front of a conservative-dominated Wisconsin Supreme Court. They lost, and we were able to show the court that the statute allows exactly how the Elections Commission was proceeding. The same thing's going to happen here. This lawsuit is based on the theory that the statutes require the only two ways a voter can return an absentee ballot are to personally put it in the mailbox or to personally hand it directly to their municipal clerk. As I read the complaint that was filed yesterday, if you took your ballot down to the Madison City Clerk's office and you handed it to anyone who worked there except for our actual city clerk, Mary Beth Witzel-Beale, if you didn't hand it to Mary Beth personally, your ballot's invalid. That's, of course, preposterous. That can't possibly be the law. They also seem to think that if your spouse or someone else who lives in your house, one of your kids puts your ballot in the mailbox for you in front of your house, well, that's not valid. You were supposed to do it yourself. This is ridiculous. The statutes don't require this. Even Speaker Voss and then Majority Leader Fitzgerald recognized this. If you remember last year, when Wisconsin held its Democracy in the Park event, they were upset and they didn't like Democracy in the Park. And they wrote to the city of Madison warning that Democracy in the Park should not proceed. But in that letter, they specifically talked about drop boxes as a completely valid, expressly authorized method under Wisconsin law to return an absentee ballot. So, I mean, Will is just way, way, way out there on this. And I think that what we're going to find is the courts tell them again that they're wrong.
Jeff, also, the former president of the United States, through his PACs, continuing sending out emails. One of his grievances recently was the 200,000 illegal votes in the state of Wisconsin. Presumably, I think he's referring to the indefinitely confined status. A lot of voters use that in order to cast their ballots. You know, Jeff, I'm a firm believer that the intent of the voter, you know, should be the law. If we have drop boxes, that's great. If we can do it absentee, that's great. I mean, the more ways we can do it, the more people we can engage, the better. But what's your take on this indefinitely confined? It's my assumption, Jeff, and I'm not clear, maybe you can educate me on this, that this was one of the ways that the state of Wisconsin was able to get a voter ID, is they had some sort of clause where people didn't have it, couldn't do it, were indefinitely confined, that they had a process to engage in the voting process. Jeff, what's your take on the Republican interpretation of an indefinitely confined? Do you think that will be changed?
Well, you know, I know that there have been some legislative attempts to tighten up the provision of law that allows people who are indefinitely confined based on age, disability, illness, or infirmity to get their hands on an absentee ballot a little bit more easily. But let's be clear, these are registered voters. So they needed to do all of the things you need to do and prove residency to register to vote to start with. Let's also be clear that the indefinitely confined statute has been part of Wisconsin law for almost 50 years. And every time the legislature has looked at it until recently, they've decided to make it easier for these people who have significant challenges around Election Day, that make it hard to go to the polls and make it perhaps difficult to submit a photocopy or a scan of their photo ID to get an absentee ballot. Let's also be clear, you know, I want to take a little bit of issue with your question. The number of indefinitely confined voters last November was completely proportional to what it usually is. So we had record voter turnout. And so we had a higher number of indefinitely confined voters, but not in any way that is inconsistent with the past. And the majority of those those voters who took advantage of the indefinitely confined provision voted in counties that voted for President Trump. So this hypothesis that there was abuse of the statute is incorrect. And even if there was, the hypothesis or assumption that it somehow helped President Biden get elected appears to be false.
Jeff Mandel, he's the founder, president, and lead counsel at Law Forward. Jeff, thank you so much for coming and clarifying a few of these legal issues for our audience today. I'm sure we'll catch up again real soon, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.
I look forward to it. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Folks, come back with us. Devil's Advocates rolling out a new fine sponsor at a big event coming up on Maxwell Street Days. That's July 17th. He's Lando Commando from Knuckleheads. Come back. More Devil's Advocates.
I will pay for the legal fees. Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
This is Chad Spate. Are you thinking about improving or expanding your home? At Chad's Design Build, we're committed to making your home comfortable, healthy, attractive, durable, and sustainable. In fact, those commitments spell our name. And we deliver these services with our outstanding team of professionals who will respect you and your home. Visit our website at chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more about how we are building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
It's the 4th of July special pricing at Crazy Lenny's e-bikes. Listen to this.
E-bikes are just $844. E-bikes with a 30-mile range, just $844. E-bikes with a 2-year warranty, just $844. 7-speed e-bikes, just $844.
You gotta see this e-bike. 3 power levels now, just $844.
For 3 days only until 3 p.m., 4th of July.
No one's got a bigger selection, and we have the lowest prices in the nation. Crazy Lenny's e-bikes.
President Biden's American Jobs Plan would invest in clean energy jobs, move the country towards clean power, and create millions of good-paying jobs for families like yours. It's the most progressive plan to create American jobs in decades. Members of Congress need to hear that this plan would help you and your family. Join Move On's fight to help working families. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by MoveOn.org Civic Action.
Madison, you say what? Each weeknight from 5 to 6, don't miss out on a single day of the Earl Ingram Show right here on Devil Radio 92.7 FM, 1580 AM.
Stay informed with progressive news and talk on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, McFarland's choice for essential radio.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Make sure you download the fancy and shiny new app. Go to your smartphone app store and look up the Devil Radio.
Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, attorney Jeff Mandel, founder, president, lead counsel, Law Forward. Thank you, Jeff, for brightening up the Devil's Advocates Wednesday afternoon. And Dom, in honor of the fact it's the 420 break, we'd like to introduce a fine new sponsor. They've been on the station before, but you're going to hear a lot of their ads going forward. It's Knuckleheads, and we bring you live from the Broadcast Bunker 2.0, Lando Commando. Welcome aboard, Lando.
Hey,
man.
guys. Thanks for having me in the studio. It is great to be here. It's really fun being with you guys. And I'm really excited for Knuckleheads to partner with you guys and be able to do so much more.
And you guys have the big re-grand opening. Knuckleheads has moved. You used to be high above State Street.
Yes. Now we're not so high above State Street, but it's really great. Unfortunately, with Pipe Fitters not, closing, we were able to move in, and we're going to be able to keep that energy alive. And the new space is looking amazing. Maxwell Street Days is going to be quite the weekend for the big kind of re-grand opening.
The re-grand opening, and Devil Radio is going to play a big part, or at least we'd like to think we are.
Oh, definitely.
We're going to be there Saturday, July 17th on State Street at the Knuckleheads new location, the former Pipe Fitter location, the new Knuckleheads location. And I'm going to be there, and I think I'm dragging along Pizza Box Mike. We're going to do some live broadcasts. We're going to meet some people at the store. And the grand reopening, we've got something special, don't we? I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, Lando.
Oh, yeah.
But our audience may not want to fight the crowd, so we want to give them sort of a special Summer of Love.
We do
VIP
have Summer of
experience.
Love sneak peek. We're only telling you guys that listen to Devil Radio. We will be open, soft open. You can come see the new space by next weekend. So by 7/10 later that week, we'll be, when you start hearing ads for the new location, you can come on down. You'll hear the ad telling you to come down. You get 15% off your entire purchase. That's applicable. We can't do it on some stuff, but pretty much the whole store. You're going to get a special deal, sneak peek.
And Lando, what are we asking people to do? How are you going to know they're friends of ours?
You just say Devil Radio and we'll know. Because we know that you guys are our friends. Devil Radio is our friends. You guys have always been good to us, and we want your listeners and you guys who are listening right now to come say hi. Let us know that you heard us and that you're excited for the new space. And we do daily deals every single day. So no matter what day you come down, you're going to get a great deal plus the special secret Devil Radio deal.
The special sauce. Lando, what I'm excited about is sometimes I think people, and you guys have a lot of CBD related products.
Yep.
A lot of hemp related products and smoking devices, etc. But people have questions. And you know, when it's Maxwell Street Days and there's tons of consumers in the store, I mean, we'll be excited. Your boss will be excited, we hope.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll have lots of friends and people showing up. But would it be nicer to get your questions answered? Because,
yes,
you know, some of this stuff's not cheap.
No, and that's what we want to be. We want to be just your friendly neighborhood knucklehead. We understand that some of this stuff, you gotta come in, you gotta check it out, you gotta talk to the missus, you know, you gotta dot your I's, you know, cross your T's, so we can provide that information. So come in, and you can come in anytime. We still have the upstairs open, but we'll answer any questions, and that 520 will be open. Our goal is by the 12th. Don't hold me to that, but swing by starting then. You'll have a whole week leading up to Max Days, a sneak preview.
Can they call ahead?
Oh,
Can they
yeah,
do it sort of by appointment style?
Call the shop 608-284-0151. And if you come up and say Devil Radio, there's going to be work being done on it. So even if you can't go in and buy something there, if you come say Devil Radio or call the shop, set up an appointment, we'll make sure someone's there so you can come down and see the shop, and we'll still get you that deal, whether or not you're buying it from the new location or the old one.
Now, what if someone came strolling in and they wanted one of the big glassware smoking items, you know,
the water pipes,
yeah,
or some of
let's
the
see,
tubes or something?
Will you specifically need to see a note from Dominic's wife?
More than likely, yes, especially for him. I got the feeling that I would get in trouble as well.
Oh no, she's totally down with it. Nothing like a quality water pipe to enhance the experience.
Functional artwork.
They are really. Know? I mean, some of these things are art. You almost don't want to use them.
Yeah, or it's like, okay, once a year, this is gonna be my special birthday
it's
rig.
Like the fine china, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm also, you know, always. I think y'all should always wear the pretty dress, man.
Yeah.
And eat dessert first and use the fine water bong.
Yes. Call the shop anytime. That's 608-284-0151. Look us up on Google. All the social medias were there. I have them on my phone, and I respond to them as quickly as I can.
And Lando, just for a point of clarity, the hemp products that you would carry there at Knuckleheads, A, they're completely legal under both state and federal law.
100%.
And B, you can get the Delta 8 products.
Yes, the D8. We like to call it enhanced CBD as well. D8, I don't know, it gets confused, but enhanced CBD, D8, wellness products, all that stuff. You come ask any questions. We have the certificates, the lab results, everything available for you. And if we don't know the answer, we'll look on Google together and find a source.
And we will be partying with you, Cowboy, at Maxwell Street Days. That is July 17th. Devil Radio will be on State Street for Maxwell Street Days at the new Knuckleheads location. Come see Crudy. I'll be down there partying with you guys.
Product testing, man.
And if you really want a sneak peek, this special sauce, go call Lando, set an appointment, call the fine team at Knuckleheads and get a sneak peek down there and get 15% off.
Yeah, 15% off your whole purchase, that any item that's applicable, which is pretty much anything that's not cigarettes.
Lando, what's the website and phone number for the audience?
Website, knuckleheadscbd.com and 608-284-0151. And we're open 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day.
Lando, welcome to the Summer of Love right here on Devil Radio. Knuckleheads, the official sponsor of the 420 break.
Nice.
Yes.
Thank you, Lando. Come back with us. More Devil Samples. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
Strawberry fields forever. Yeah.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Kind of grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
I am once again asking you to listen to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM. I believe they have the moral fiber to create a progressive movement in Wisconsin and indeed in America. Hey, Joanne, I hear you have a Tech Protect plan from Community PC.
I have been having services since 2013. He provides monthly maintenance for me. He is able to attach to my computer so he can figure out what my problems are. I'm very computer illiterate. If I had to call somebody on the telephone, I would probably not be able to follow through with that.
Community PC. We know what makes seniors happy.
Hello, I'm Sue Peck with Evolution Financial. Have you found yourself at that tipping point where you realize your finances have become just a bit too complicated? Or maybe you have so much on your plate and you'd love to focus on and support the passions that are most important to you. If you're looking for a local, independent, fee-only fiduciary financial advisor, contact me, Sue Peck, CFP professional with Evolution Financial. Search online for Evolution Financial Madison.
Evolution Financial is a registered investment advisor with the state of Wisconsin.
January 6th committee. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. The House votes mainly along party lines to form a select committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol by a mob of supporters of former President Donald Trump. Minnesota Republican Congresswoman Michelle Fischbach, who voted against both the bipartisan commission rejected by Senate Republicans and the Select Committee, says the Democrats are playing partisan politics.
At a time when the American people have little trust in their government, we need to be working to restore that trust. Unfortunately, this kind of partisan move will not advance that shared goal.
Former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld is dead at 88. He is the only person to serve twice as Pentagon chief. The first time in 1975 to 77 under President Ford. He was the youngest defense secretary ever. The next time in the George W. Bush administration from 2001 to 2006, he was the oldest. I'm Tim McGuire.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. ziprecruiter.com/free.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Yesterday, a panel of appeals judges declined to permit a stay in a lower court decision of terminating contracts among Republican lawmakers and private attorneys at the taxpayers' expense in anticipation of redistricting challenges later this year. The panel upheld the decision made by one of the appeals judges last week, but the Republican lawmakers had contended the whole panel needed to take up the matter, not just one judge. The appeals panel ruled unanimously to decline the stay. In his visit to Western Wisconsin yesterday, President Joe Biden stated the bipartisan infrastructure plan he is working on with Congress will address the issue of PFAS contamination in La Crosse, as well as other places across Wisconsin and the country. Another aspect of the infrastructure proposal President Biden touted in his visit was replacing lead pipes. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The big and tall of political talk. Tom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the 4 o'clock happy hour. It rolls on here, Dom. I want to thank our most recent guest, Lando Commando, a new fine sponsor, Knuckleheads. We're going to have a big event at the new location on State Street. The main floor location, the old pipe fitters, will be the new Knuckleheads. And yours truly will be broadcasting there on July 17th. Come see us. We're going to make a big deal out of Maxwell Street Days this year. And the Summer of Love, Dom, the Summer of Love continues. I'm feeling the love. We were in La Crosse at Shooters. I saw Dana, the gentleman, one of the people that showed up at the bar. I'm glad Rudy let him in. Dana put up a post. He got a Devil Radio T-shirt. He was so very proud.
Yeah,
of
it was good to meet Dana and all the folks that came out. Laura, the Dillivers. And
I got to
meeting
tell
all of
you,
Rudy's
Dom,
family.
we should have like a listener Hall of Fame. We talked about this on the drive back.
Yeah, Doc.
Doc, you are our first listener Hall of Fame member in that. We've had 3 Summer of Love events so far, and Doc's been at all 3 of the events. And before we even had a deal to go party at Johnny's Lounge in Beaver Dam, and we're going back to Johnny's Lounge on July 15th, please make a note of it, especially you, Doc, because Doc's been to 3 different events. Plus, Doc showed up the day I was in Beaver Dam just to meet with Johnny, and Doc was there that day as well. Came
awesome.
partying just for the sake of partying. I mean, the guy shows up at the bar in lacrosse motorcycle helmet. You know, he rode half the day just to come party with the Devils.
That's solid, Doc. Awesome. Thanks, man.
So you, and I would say Rudy had his wife, his eldest daughter, her boyfriend was like being the bouncer at the door, letting just the exclusive people in at the party at Shooters on 3rd Street in La Crosse yesterday. And then the youngest daughter, he had told us some of her medical story. And the dog, we got to meet the dog. I mean, I got to say, Rudy is a big fan.
And then he comped all the drinks, too. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Well, that makes him the best sort of fan.
Awesome.
Yeah, Rudy, thank you so much. Very nice to meet your entire family, minus the son. Didn't get to meet the son. Rudy didn't want to introduce us to the son.
Next time.
But the daughter and the wife. I mean, that is not always a smart choice, Rudy, but Rudy invited us into his bar and introduced us to his daughter and his wife. Rudy will try not to let you down, buddy.
Never, man. I mean, and
beautiful family.
Kudos, dude. I mean, being in the bar business for 30 years, you know what I mean? That's a tough business to make it in, and he's thrived in lacrosse there. So well done, congratulations! It was a blast, and certainly look forward to the next time. Because I understand he's got some apartments upstairs above the bar, and we always
crash pad.
We could always use Devil's Advocates West, man.
After bar,
that's right,
something like that. And also, Dom, the scene of the crime. And I can't believe Big L's is still in business. After
L's
turning in the video
yesterdays.
of me and many others partying like good college kids do back in.
I don't know. That's exactly how good college kids party, Crudy. I think that would be considered a bad college kid for, turning over, flipping, burning the cop car.
I did not do any burning of the car.
Oh, okay.
But
the car would not have been able to, have gas pouring out of its tank upside down in the middle of 3rd Street downtown La Crosse had it not been for your efforts, right?
Well, only because I had a strong back.
Everybody's doing it.
Yeah, some things really should be embarrassing, and Rudy played the video for us. And the good news is the video that Rudy had featured on the I got to assume that was a VCR. He's playing old VHS tapes.
They're tape, yeah. I think they were. VHS
he had converted them over
to DVD,
for posterity's sake.
You don't want to, ruin the tape any further.
But anyways, Rudy was playing the scene in the bar while we're trying to do the show, and then Rudy comes over last night and apologizes to me, like, "Oh, Rudy, I didn't realize you were so intimately involved in the events of that day." He said, "I didn't realize you were a defendant." And I said, "Now you know, Rudy." But would it have changed his actions any? Hopefully, he still would have invited us into his bar for a party in La Crosse, and hopefully, he still would have introduced us to the family and still comped the drinks. Hopefully, that wasn't just guilt. Either way, Rudy, enjoyed the drinks, enjoyed the good time.
Yeah,
man. Thanks
good
for
stuff.
having us.
Great being in La Crosse.
So I'm nominating Rudy as well for the Listener Hall of Fame.
I concur.
Made a day out of it. The whole family did.
Yeah, it was fun.
What else are we talking about?
Well, of course, making a day out of it. The Republicans, well, they're back in action. Crudy getting all the hard work done. Reporting Molly Beck in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Gotta love this one. Wisconsin lawmakers on Wednesday sent Governor Tony Evers legislation that could make it harder to get records about lawmakers who are disciplined or accused of harassment, government transparency experts warn. The measure would formally create a human resources office for the state legislature and says disciplinary records and complaints against lawmakers should be treated confidentially, bolstering a legislative practice of withholding complaints against lawmakers. The proposal passed the Senate Wednesday and goes to Evers just as Dane County judge ruled that assembly leaders violated the public records law by withholding a sexual harassment complaint against a Democratic lawmaker after the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and other news outlets sued seeking the records. Bill Leaders, the president of the Wisconsin Freedom of Information Council, said this greatly magnifies the concern that I have over the proposed Human Resources Office. The legislature is trying to change the law after getting caught breaking it. The measure passed both the Assembly on Tuesday and the Senate on Wednesday with no opposition. Krista Westerberg, vice president of the Wisconsin Freedom of Information Council and attorney who specializes in open government issues, said at best the bill is ambiguous as to whether it simply codifies existing statutory exemptions to disclosure. At worst, it creates or will be interpreted as creating a broad new exception to disclosure for any records relating to human resources matters in the legislature, Westerberg said in a memo to council members. This could apply to important records relating to matters including legislative misconduct, as well as mundane matters swept up in the bill's broad language. Westerberg said no other state or local government body is allowed to withhold all records related to human resources matters. The bill is unnecessary as employment-related records are subject to other exemptions in the law or, as appropriate, the balancing test. The measure would put into state law the duties of the legislature's Human Resources Office. It does not exempt the records from the state public's records law. The bill passed in its final chamber on Wednesday, just after the Dane County judge, Juan Colas, ruled the assembly leaders, which include the legislature's human resources officials, violated the public records in law in keeping private records related to complaints against the state lawmaker. Rep. Mark Bourne, a Beaver Dam Republican and co-chairman of the Finance Committee that passed the bill earlier this month, said the legislation is meant to formalize actions legislative leaders took last year when they formed their Human Resources Department. My understanding is that the bill in its entirety is putting in place exactly what was created by the Committee on Org when that agency was created sometime last year. So it's just continuing the current practice, he said. Bourne did not explain why he believed the discipline of lawmakers and their staffs should be kept from public. Asked if he would support a similar policy that would keep discipline confidential for Tony Evers' cabinet secretaries, Bourne said, "Have a good day," and walked away from a Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reporter.
Well, Tony Evers' cabinet secretaries don't get to legislate their own confidentiality, but Mark Bourne does. This was about Stash Grozensky, right? That was the ruling that Colas has. There's more reporting at the Journal-Sentinel. I'm going to share a little bit of this. Dane County Judge Juan Colas sided with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel and other journalists who sued the state assembly in March of 2020 over records. Former Assembly Chief Clerk Patrick Fuller withheld the records, arguing the public interest in handling complaints confidentiality outweighed the public interest in releasing them. Colas in his ruling said Fuller misapplied the balancing test and violated the state public records law. You mentioned that, Don, by denying access to even redacted records in their response to the initial records request. Robin Voss's spokespeople did not comment yet. Colas also ruled the defendants misapplied the balancing test and violated records law in redacting the names of non-witnesses and in redacting Grozensky's health statement. The media outlets contended the assembly cannot hold back the documents because the records law provides the public with broad access to information about the government. Exceptions allowing records to be withheld are supposed to be rare. A little bit more here. Grozensky made comments suggesting the victim he's alleged to have hit on, basically drunk, suggesting the victim was to blame for his repeated advances as if she had invited his behavior, according to the victim's complaint. He kept saying, "Oh, come on. And did I misread your signals?" over and over again. The victim wrote, he said, "No one has to know. It can be quick. I can just follow you home, you know." He said, "I thought you wanted this. I want you." I said, "No, not at all. You must be joking." I was so shaken and upset at this point and felt scared to leave because I thought he would follow me. I went into the bathroom and I locked it and called redacted did not include that name, crying because I was so upset. I didn't know what to do. The victim began to struggle with anxiety, fear of running into Grzinski at the Capitol. According to the investigative records, she began locking her office door and took time away from work. Now, Grzinski ran for re-election. He was defeated last August in a primary, Dom. But this was a Democratic lawmaker from Green Bay that was accused of ungentlemanly behavior towards Capitol staffers after a night of boozing.
Crudy Valley Beck continues on her reporting. Legislators from both parties have supported keeping details about complaints and how they handle them confidential. They argue doing so protects victims and helps ensure legislative workers will report harassment when it happens. Employment lawyers and advocates for government transparency have called that approach wrong-headed. They say releasing information would help voters know whether their lawmakers are fit for office and whether their colleagues are committed to cracking down on harassment.
I think that the voters should become aware, and the public, their government, they're subject to public records. And I get the protection of a witness or a victim, let's call them.
Oh, redact it then.
But redact it, man.
Exactly.
You don't get to keep the confidentiality of the accused, like it's an internal PR case. Because no one's got the right to throw the lawmaker out except the voters. 844-967-27.
But that, I'm sorry. 844-967-2789. And that it is unique, obviously. I mean, they win elections and that's how they get the job per se, right? But if you're engaging in, harassing type of behavior, certainly don't we, the voters who are ultimately the employers, as it were, shouldn't we know this? It should be easier. I mean, this isn't a private corporation. I mean, this is governance. This is oversight. And we should absolutely know these things. And I can't believe that Democrats, apparently, as legislators from both parties have supported this idea, that we need transparency. We need more transparency, not less.
Full transparency. Dom has been accused of harassing me many, many times.
That is true. I have harassed you, and I will continue to harass you, especially when you say stupid things or don't pronounce things properly.
Well, that never happens.
I was going to say I've been harassed.
844-967-2789. Jake from Milwaukee. Welcome back, Jake. What do you got for us?
Hey, Jake. Hello, Jake.
Oh, hey.
There you
yeah.
go.
Hey, hello, you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're on the air.
So the first question I have is, what Republican lawmaker has a pending legal case for harassment? And two, is the Human Resources Department now the official matchmaking service for aides and politicians?
Terrible.
That's what it sounds like to me. What really gets me is every Democrat, you guys have just let me down. And we pay your salary, and you are beholden to us, the voter. So if you harass someone and get in legal trouble, I want to know, regardless. So, my legislative and LaToya
Johnson, perhaps?
LaToya Johnson, I am disappointed in you completely. You shouldn't have went along with this, and you should be up for transparency.
Jake, I thought you were saying the devil's advocates. You paid our salary. I'm thinking, only George Soros does that. Come back, more devils.
Let me tell you something. You're suspect.
We really don't know if I have the authority to do that.
It's the 4th of July special pricing at Crazy Lenny's e-bikes. Listen to this.
E-bikes are just $844. E-bikes with a 30-mile range, just $844. E-bikes with a 2-year warranty, just $844. 7-speed e-bikes, just $844.
You gotta see this e-bike. 3 power levels now, just $844.
For 3 days only until 3 p.m., 4th of July.
No one's got a bigger selection, and we have the lowest prices in the nation. Crazy Lenny's e-bikes.
This is Rocker. I'm sitting on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies on East Wash, and I'm enjoying a floral-forward Manhattan called As Long as There's Whiskey. It features Rocker Rye whiskey with a hint of blueberry, a touch of smoky Amaro, and it's finished off with Saint Germain. It's a Rocker Rye Manhattan at Sal's Tomato Pies on Livingston. Ask for it by name as long as there's whiskey. You can also enjoy Rocker Spirits at the Wisco and Tiny's Tap on Willie Street. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Hi, this is Gordy from Kopke's Greenhouse near Oregon, Wisconsin. For over 35 years, gardeners have been coming out to our farm for their vegetables and flowering plants. We invite you to escape from the city and enjoy the beauty of Mother Nature's bounty. You can get our hours and directions from our website, kopkesgreenhouse.com. That's Kopkes greenhouse.com. From all the families that rely on your support, we say thank you.
Boys and Girls Clubs of Dane County need your help. Our annual bike event is scheduled for July 17th. We need hundreds of individual riders and donors to encourage participation in pledges. We will be giving away 2 Crazy Lenny electric bikes, 1 e-bike for a participant and 1 for individual that pledges to support a rider. Come ride for the Boys and Girls Club or make a pledge at bgcdc.org.
Friends don't let friends spread fake news. Make sure to follow Devil Radio on Facebook and Twitter and stay up to date with the most important stories of the day.
The Devil's Advocates. We drink when we toast when we drink.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, last segment of the day. So if you have something to say, pick up the phone, hit us up right now, toll free, talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, last Friday, in your absence, which has become quite frequent, Maggie Dawn, fine attorney, Milwaukee County Corporate Counsel, was my guest devil for almost the entirety of the show. And as part of her presentation, I let her take the microphone and the soapbox, and she got up on it and she chastised Governor Tony Evers and said, Tony, you need to sign the opioid legislation that basically allows settlements to go to communities on a 70-30 split. And she was intimately involved in this process, talking about my pal Maggie Dawn, your friend and mine. And she, in fact, had filed a lawsuit on behalf of Milwaukee County, and they had negotiated at length to get what was in this bill. And then the Attorney General, Josh Call, who's a friend of ours and often on this show, Josh Call, to Maggie Dawn's assessment, was misconstruing and misinforming the Democrats of what was in the bill. So Maggie got up on her soapbox last Friday and said, Tony Evers, and told our audience, gave the phone number, we know the number, 266-1212, and gave out the Attorney General's phone number and said, call these people and tell them to do the right thing. And according to our pal Maggie Dawn, the right thing would be for Governor Tony Evers to sign this legislation into law. It would be good for Milwaukee. It would be good for Dane County. It would be good for the local communities that actually offer the support. I mean, as Maggie pointed out, I believe it was 498 opioid overdose deaths last year in Milwaukee County.
Wow.
Big numbers. Well, here's the good news, I think. Patrick Marley reports Evers signs opioid legislation, and Maggie takes a little umbrage with this last part, but calls part of it unconstitutional.
Huh?
Seems to be a contradictory thing you've done, Tony, but let me read. Governor Tony Evers signed legislation Wednesday to ensure any settlement with opioid manufacturers is used only on responding to drug abuse and its effects. That's what our pal Maggie would advocate for. But the Democratic governor said he considered parts of the new law unconstitutional because it interferes with the powers of prosecutors. The law Evers signed will require the state to work with counties as they try to reach an overarching settlement with opioid manufacturers and distributors. The state and counties have separately filed lawsuits against the industry, and the new law would require 70% of any settlement to go to local governments and 30% to the state. Now, contrast that with like the tobacco settlement that went entirely to the state. Didn't go to Milwaukee, didn't go to Dane County, didn't go to the communities where people were actually smoking, went to the state and got thrown in the general coffers. So this legislation says the money goes to the communities first. And big communities like Milwaukee that have high opioid rates and overdose deaths, they're going to get a larger piece of the pie. But if you leave it to Republicans and the Joint Finance Committee to make individual decisions, you know what they're going to do with the money? It's going to be tax cuts for the wealthy, right?
Tax cuts for the wealthy. That's exactly what they'll do.
Back to this article briefly. The new law would require 70% of any settlement to go to local governments, 30% to the state. All the money would have to go towards efforts to address opioid abuse and could not be diverted to other government programs. That's all good stuff. The Republican-backed measure, and there were Democratic votes for this, known as Assembly Bill 374, last week passed the Assembly 60-38 and the Senate 19-11. In a signing statement, Evers wrote that he approved the law because he believed it would maximize the amount of money the state and local governments would receive to fight opioids. Maggie Dawn would pat you on the back, Tony. He took issue with the part of the measure that gives lawmakers the power to sign off on the settlements. As pointed out, that is the current law in the state of Wisconsin. You don't have to like it, but the Attorney General, Josh Kaul, was perhaps in his opposition to this hamstringing of the Attorney General and the governor by the Republican legislature, the lame duck before the guys were ever even sworn into office. They changed the nature and said the Joint Finance Committee has control, not the Attorney General, over signing off on these settlements. Well, I can understand why Josh Kaul would be oppositional and the governor would be oppositional. That's Josh Kaul. That's the Attorney General's job. And the Republicans have inserted themselves. But it is also the current law, whether or not Tony Evers likes it. So, back to the signing statement. He argued that a portion of the law that violates the state's constitution's separation of powers doctrine, which stipulates what duties belong to each branch of the government, prosecutors, part of the executive branch, should be able to craft settlements without the say of the legislative branch, he contended. Tony's statement, Evers' statement. Not only is this provision unconstitutional, but it also needlessly delays the ability of the state to get these funds to communities as quickly as possible by requiring approval by the Joint Committee on Finance and creating uncertainty as to whether the settlement will be approved expeditiously or at all. The issue Evers raised is one that he and lawmakers have fought over for years. After Evers and Democratic Attorney General Josh Kaul were elected, we talked about this, the Republican lawmakers approved lame duck laws to limit their powers before they were sworn in. Among them were provisions that gave legislators a say in court settlements. Litigation over the issue has continued ever since. So they're still having this partisan fight in court. And the Republicans, no doubt, they drew first blood on this through the lame duck. And I understand the position of the Attorney General and the governor, but kudos to at least Tony Evers today. And I trust Maggie Dawn and the settlement negotiated and the legislation crafted. And I'd even like to give some kudos to Republican lawmakers that got in on this. And the Democrats maybe didn't quite understand the nature of this issue. But when Maggie Dawn comes on the devil's advocates and tells Governor Tony Evers to go sign a bill, that's exactly what Tony did.
Well done, Tony. Listening to Maggie. Maggie's a very smart person. We always appreciate her insight, but she will not be joining us this week, apparently on vacation, bitches. So perhaps next week.
Well, that doesn't mean that the big night of talk radio is done. Stick around. Earl Ingram Jr. is next. The Earl Show, 5 to 6 p.m. Native Roots Radio, and then sad news now. The Up North podcast going on hiatus after tonight. Tonight's the last live edition until the fall.
Aw.
Got lots of stuff going on, both Pat and our pal Kirk Bankstead and Kristen. So you better tune in for the last one for a while. Keep it locked right here on Devil Radio. Thank you, Jeff Mandel. Thank you to the fine folks, including Lando, Commando, and Knuckleheads. This summer of love, Tom, it rolls on. It gets better and better. I feel the love. Thank you to our fine sponsor of the Summer of Love, Chad's Design Build. Keep it locked. Earl's next. Thanks for coming to Madison and La Crosse. Thank you, Fancy Brian. Thank you all for listening.
Thor. Beer's on the bucket. Feel free to log into the Wi-Fi. No password, obviously.
So you guys want a drink? What are we drinking? Well, we got beer, tequila, all sorts of things.
Everybody's doing it.